Pretty close. I think I need to redo the video and give the fade out a little bit more time, so that way it's easier for me to time it right.
You can also
Trooper, I see you.
You can also do what I did with the stream Sunday, and you can have a version of it or like a video that just cuts to black and has a long black, so it gives you just the time, so it just doesn't loop. And then when you're ready to do the last run, switch the sources, so make one invisible, one visible, and play that version, and then it will just roll and then fade, and then switch.
Smart. Oops. But my good evening.
Yeah, I felt a lot like an actual like stream manager, but and this one goes here, and then we pull in this one. It's great.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 56. Sorry, I posted wrong on Twitter. I, for some reason, thought it was 57, but it's 56, actually, of the Pathfinders podcast.
Yeah, it won't matter till we get to 100, so it's fine. Just make up the numbers in the middle.
Yeah. Next week will be 7011, and I am Tree0311, here with my partner in crime.
Hello, everyone. I am Nazeris.
And we are the Pathfinders, and we are charting the way through all the nebulous information surrounding Star Citizen, Squadron 42, and their development. And this episode, the plan for it started off a little bit short, and then I was like, oh my gosh, how I completely forgot Nazeris and I have to go through the post mortem. Like, what's more, development of Star Citizen than the freaking post mortem of like the most monumental patch cycle thus far. So we're going to cover that along with the September Roadmap Roundups and any updates related to that. And then we got a special treat. Yesterday evening, our time.
During my stream.
Yeah, during your stream, Chris Roberts posted on Spectrum for the first time in 4 years. I know it's been 4 years because I have his previous posts bookmarked and have linked to it many times. Yeah, it's the quantum one. Yep. Yeah.
I love how we have the social platform and like the guy who has the project that invented it doesn't post on it.
Yeah, hardly ever. He used to post a lot more way back when, but yeah, the mythical Easter Bunny. Yep. But yeah, so that's what we are doing this evening. But before we get started, just as we always do, just to catch you up on what we've been up to. Nazeris, you had a pretty good stream yesterday. You want to talk about your show?
Sure. So I brought back Star Citizen Content Creators Roundtable. And it's kind of like Captain's Table, but less hinged. So it's more unhinged. So instead of having 2 people, we have 3 people plus myself, so it's 4 co-hosts altogether. And it is now a weekly thing. I have at least most of the people for the next 2 weeks lined up. So our first one was Smithy, Astropub, Execute, and nope, where is his name? There was someone else there, and I don't remember who it was. I rewatched the entire thing recently, and I don't remember who the third person was. What?
Ender.
No, I'm talking about the first one, the very first one.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I don't remember who the third person was, and I'm sorry. And then this last one, which we just did Sunday, was myself, Ender Shadowwalker, who is also in the org and also does sometimes content stuff, but he's more of the whenever he can find time. And then we have Atira Kell and Smithy Joe Bob also, and we talked about everything from just basically Star Citizen in general, CitizenCon, hopes, predictions, and doubts. And that's kind of like what I kicked off, kind of this special like resurgence of the thing, is we have 4 episodes leading up to CitizenCon. So it's 1 of 4, and we'll be getting a new Star Citizen Content Creators Roundtable lead up to CitizenCon or Road to CitizenCon episode every week until that fateful day when I'll be streaming for 48 hours with me, Ender Shadowwalker, and Red J. And we will be there. I mean, we're gonna have times when at least one of us or both 2 of us will not be there, but there'll be at least one of us 3 there for 48 hours. So that should be very
That's
interesting. I'm
nuts.
stocking up on Rockstars now. Yeah, but a weekly thing. Sunday at 8 p.m. EST kicks off, and yeah, come hang out, ask questions, do whatever it is people do with podcast shows and things. It is also being transported, converted, translated. Anyway, it onto podcast platforms. So it's currently on Spotify, and I will be converting it as I can to other platforms as well.
Very cool. Yeah, it was fun to hang out last night. I wish I could have, last night, yesterday afternoon, evening. Wish I could have stuck around longer, but I was listening while I was at work, and then of course duty called, and I had to leave the fun. Your bots censoring me.
So people who weren't there, I just turned on Nightbot, so because it works both on YouTube and it's supposed to work on YouTube and Twitch. But I had forgot to disable the bot from Stream Elements, so the bots were fighting. Stream Elements would say, "Here's a link for everyone to go," and Nightbot was like, "No links for you." Oh, I even went in and shut off the censoring of links, and Nightbot still is like, "No, not Stream Elements. Anyone but him."
Listen here, Nazeris. I'm Nightbot, and I am in charge.
Oh, it was great. It was so good that I fear that next week will be less good. But I'm gonna try.
It was a good time. I highly encourage everyone to check it out if you haven't already, and go and show Naz and the other content creators that he brings on some love. Maybe eventually I'll get invited on there. I know that there's a waiting list, so I got to get my name. I got to call and make a reservation.
You also have to be available on a Sunday evening, so I don't know how often it happens for you.
That's the hard part. Is in September.
Well, when you have a Sunday evening, let me know.
Actually,
whether on this side of CitizenCon or on the other side. So.
Well, no, I was actually thinking about that. Hold on. Wrong tab. Well, because I was planned. I'm hoping to do Captain's Table on the 7th, so maybe the 8th.
The 8th. Okay.
Yeah, or the 15th if I get out of drill early enough. Yeah. But you got way more going on content creation wise than I do. I have been under the gun for real life work, and it's been brutal this month.
Yeah. However, I'm gonna butcher your name, but so Ruin is in chat as well. He created this what is the Wordle game, but except it shows up like Wordle, but it's spaceships guessing, Star Citizen spaceship guessing. And
the Stardoll.
Did I do my today's one? I've lost hours to this thing. It is fantastic. Like I didn't know how much. Like I've wanted to do something like ship guessing and do like the Pokemon thing, but because I know way too much about Star Citizen ships, and I've just been loving this thing. It's Straddle. And it's great. I love it so much. No,
I think that's the right link. I think I put it in chat, right? Yep.
Yeah, it goes to the classic version, which is one guess a day. Yeah, I haven't done my today's one, so which means I need to do it. So I actually have like a weird trick that I do, and it does not help me one bit. But I always start with the Apollo Medevac because it's a mid-sized ship. It gives me, is it RSI or medical? Yes, no. It's the ship's 43 meters long, so that's a good like middle range. It's also 275, which is a good middle range for price. It's a 2 crew and it's unreleased. So the unreleased note is a really good one to have because if it's not unreleased, you know it's in the game. If it is unreleased, it's a really good one to have. I guess any ship would actually give you that, but it's kind of like mid across the line. So it's really cool. So can't say. I'm pretty sure, like in Classic Edition, it's only one. Everyone gets the same ship per day, so I can't say what I'm guessing currently. How much? It's less than that and less than that. So let's try that. Oh, that's right. I'm dumb.
Well, let's get started with the show. We're gonna start with the roadmap roundups, and we're gonna continue what we've been doing for the last couple months, just because haven't been able to do individual episodes for each roadmap roundup recently, just because we've both been so busy. But so we're gonna cover the September roadmap roundups. And the Progress Tracker Delta reports this evening. So let's switch over to the other page.
That was good. That I could not have asked for a better run than that. Where did my other window go? Oh, there we are. All right.
So the first one is the September 6th.
Oh no, I can't tell people how many tabs I have because they'll be weird about it.
You can't have too many tabs. What are you talking about?
No, but I just have a very specific number of tabs.
42?
No. Higher than that. I have 40 on my media creation one.
Jeez.
So it's I guess it's what's it? 109 then? So if you want to do math, I have 40 on one, then they both will end up to 109. All right. So as we do like to read the headers of CIG communications. That way we know for ourselves and we can communicate to you guys the purpose of said document, and so we are all on the same page reading through the information therein. So for the roadmap roundups, it is Happy Wednesday, everyone. Every 2 weeks, we accompany the roadmap update with a brief explanatory note to give you insight into the decision-making that led to any changes. This is part of an effort to make our communications more transparent, more specific, and more insightful for all of you who help make Star Citizen and Squadron 42 possible. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into this week's Roadmap Roundup with the CIG community team.
Alrighty. So for the release view, we had one addition to the release view on September 6th, which everybody knows already, the Mirai Fury LX added to the release view, targeting a launch with Alpha 320, which has now gone live with the Mirai Fury LX, which is the snub racer variant of the Fury. Haven't had a chance to fly it. I don't own any of the Furies. Not really my cup of tea, but I know a lot of people that are into racing, and I've watched a few streams thus far, and people are having a lot of fun with it. So it seems to be pretty well received.
Yeah, I now don't need an arrow. An arrow is now my light fighter again. Like the Fury LX has replaced the arrow as my racer. I'm loving it. It definitely has proven to me that this game does not have pay to win. Because I'm like, okay, this is probably just going to be better because it's better tuned or whatever. I'm like, and then I race against a Razor. I'm like, okay, so it's old and new Misc Racer. Let's see how the calibration is. Razor has so much more speed. Sure, I can like do all this like 6 degree of freedom of whatever, but so much more speed. Basically, that is the thing. You have way more maneuverability than anyone else, but everyone else is beating you in a straight line.
How's the acceleration versus like the Razor?
You get off the line faster than anyone else. So you get up to your speed, but then once you hit that speed, in the Fury.
Okay, so the Fury has good acceleration, but the top speed is not good. Has really good maneuverability, but again, like in a straight line, you might beat them into the turn, but once you get into the straightaway, they're gonna, okay.
Yeah.
But being able to accelerate well out of the turn is really good too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've lost against a Razor and I've lost against an M50. I've also beaten other razors and other ships. I also beat a Carrack, or not Carrack. I beat a Caterpillar today. That was fun. So I guess something I forgot to mention in the intro. I also run an org, and we have events every Monday. It's an economy-based org, so we do salvage mining and cargo. No Forge Industries, if you guys are interested. We are quickly. If we had everyone online at the same time, it would be 31 people.
Nice, that's good growth.
Yeah, we have a core about 5 players, and like you'll be seeing at least one of them. Well, actually, Ender's in the org, and he was on last roundtable. I also have Mick coming in on the next table, so not table round. Oh yeah, it is table. It is also tables. So yeah, I don't know when I'll run out of org people that do content, so they might just keep showing up on the round table. So that's the thing. And then the other thing that was on the progress tracker, or the other thing that was in the Roadmap Roundup, progress tracker. With this polish, we've added Q3 schedules for the NAPU gameplay feature team. Can't say it with a straight face. The NAPU gameplay feature and vehicle gameplay feature teams. These are existing deliverables previously on progress tracker. Yep, no, that's how these are existing deliverables previously on progress tracker. There's supposed to be a the there.
Yep.
These are existing deliverables previously on the progress tracker.
Well, and then it says, and are simply being reallocating, not reallocated.
Who turned on lolcats talk?
Come on, Jake.
Deliverables on progress tracker and are simply being reallocating.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine that Jake is so overworked right now because of all the crap that's happening with the Roadmap Plus. CitizenCon is literally like 25 days away.
Yeah, it is soon.
I think was. Oh no! It was because of CitizenCon prep, we're not having a live show this week. I read that completely differently.
And I think this is our last ISC for the season. I think they'll probably take all of October off for ISC, which I mean makes sense. You know, we're gonna be we won't get anything for 2 weeks, but then third week is.
And then they're gonna
CitizenCon.
come back in November with probably another ship roundtable, like they tend to do now.
Mm-hmm.
And Jax McCleary. So like, I can't hate.
I'm very excited for Jax.
What's he
the interesting. So the NAPU gameplay feature team and vehicle gameplay feature team. If we go to the companion, the vehicle feature team is an upstream team, and the interesting enough, if we go back to when it was announced that there was going to be a new vehicle gameplay feature team, and they're saying the existing vehicle feature team would remain on Squadron 42. Well, the vehicle feature team is right here, and it's an upstream team, so they should have their schedule all the way out to the end of Q4, because that's where the upstream teams are scheduled out to right now. Well, right now, the only ongoing work for the vehicle feature team is it's basically they're scheduled out to the end of this month, and they're working on resource management and vehicle support. That's it. And so it's interesting that the vehicle feature team, which is still working on Squadron 42, is actually working on resource management and Squadron 42 vehicle support, and they're split almost evenly. There's 7 devs on resource management, and there's 8 devs on vehicle support for Squadron 42. But it's interesting because they don't have their Q4 schedule, even though they're an upstream team.
So in the SCL 10 days ago, Ask the Devs vehicle gameplay, they had mentioned it. I think it was like just about directly asked by Lando. There was the other vehicle team, then there was the vehicle team we had. What is the difference between the vehicle feature team that we had and this new team? And they basically said it's basically the same thing, but the name is evolving with their task, not necessarily with anything else. So last one was very squadron focused. They're basically changing their name, keeping most of their people, and just going to the PU.
Yeah.
And like, I just about like lost my mind. Like, that's basically the vehicle features are done for Squadron, and a lot of the like vehicle stuff is done for Squadron. They just said we're done with Squadron, moving to the PU to implement stuff.
Best friends. Yep.
It's insane.
Yeah, I think it'll make more sense once we get the Q4 update in October, the Q4 updates for upstream and downstream in October. Oh, so is it So Ruin? Am I saying it right? So Ruin? So Ruin just subbed at tier 1 for 6 months. Thank you so much for the sub. Before I continue, just have to do the whole plug thing. So Ruin, just so you know, your subscription, any monetization that I get via Twitch and YouTube goes 100% directly to stackup.org, because I give all my monetization to charity. And so when I get Twitch payouts from the ad revenue and subs and stuff like that, whenever I get those, I make a donation to stackup.org, and usually I'll round it up to the next highest $50. So if it's like $70, I'll add some money in and make it an even 100. This last donation was 150 because I had like $120 worth of payouts. So thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. It's going to a good cause, and now you don't have to watch ads. But yeah, so if you're not aware of how the roadmap works, we will get the Q4 updates, in sometime in October. Oh, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate the feedback, and Naz and I really appreciate the support. So we're really glad to have you, and glad to have you be a part of the community that we've built. Yeah, so we'll look forward to seeing in Q4 the updated schedules for both the upstream and downstream teams, but especially because the vehicle feature team and the vehicle gameplay feature team should both be upstream teams. And right now we should have their schedule in Q4, but we don't. And so it feels like, since they're reorganizing, and like Naz said, and we're going to come back to what Naz said in regards to the Squadron 42 features, in regards to vehicles sounding like they're very much done, because that's the way it's been sort of leaning in the monthly reports. I feel like we're going to see they're waiting to hash out their schedule for Q4 now, since they're reorganizing the team and reprioritizing it. It's basically, we're starting to see I don't want to say undoing, but the inverse of what we saw in 2021, where they reassigned teams, reprioritized them to squadron. We're starting to see that trickle back, and with these rearrangement of the teams.
And I think
obviously,
I think it was interesting and very, very like on point. It was Tomato's podcast with Salt and Mike. They were discussing
I just
how
started watching that one today.
We had thought that it was going to be, okay, everyone's moving to Squadron, and then 6 to 12 months later, we'd start seeing that come back. Like, they would just start porting features. It was not explained to us that they're going to all move over, finish everything for Squadron, and then all move back to reintegrate all of their work back. We thought it was going to be somebody makes something over here and then hands it off to a Star Citizen dev. But no, they went and they polished, they built a game, and now everyone's coming back to build this game. Except they're going to have all the tools that they just built and polished up over there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this next year of Star Citizen is going to be, I don't want to call it beta, because I don't think they're going to call it beta. They might, but it's basically going to be Squadron features and polish the whole 2024.
Yeah, it's going to be bringing Star Citizen up to parity with Squadron 42. And it's not all going to get done next year, but this next year is where they're going to get going on that work of, hey, Squadron 42 has leapfrogged over Star Citizen in terms of development, and now we're going to bring Star Citizen up to the same parity. Now, it does seem like, so the way Jake wrote it, this is the August 7th Roadmap Roundup. So it says these teams will be the NAPU, NAPU gameplay feature team and the economy team, and then down here. Additionally, we're also introducing the vehicle gameplay feature team. This team will have a focus on the persistent universe and its vehicles, with our existing vehicle feature team remaining on Squadron 42. So to me, this says that there's going to be a handful of the team left to polish these features during beta for Squadron, but more of the team is coming back and getting it reassigned to the PU. Whether the rest of these people will get brought over eventually, don't know. It's kind of irrelevant to me because the vehicle gameplay feature team is working on the PU. They have a PU focus now, and we can see with the Delta report for 9.6 that they are being assigned to resource management and jump points.
Ooh. And I know it's kind of a question that cannot be answered currently, but what features are they going to need for episode 2? There's probably not a whole bunch of feature work for episode 2.
Yeah,
there's a ton crap of art.
Oh yeah, art and locations, but that's the so
more locations, more ships.
Yeah, there will be more
possibly
ships,
more characters,
and stuff. It's the big difference in the development time for episode 2 and episode 3 is the vast majority of the features needed for the game are built. The vast majority of the tech needed for the game is built. They don't have to rebuild. I wonder if Star Citizen is going
to end up. Sorry.
Yeah, they don't have to rebuild a lot of these things, like especially the things that those teams were moved over for back in 2021. It's the core gameplay pillar teams. Those things aren't getting remade. Right. And so that's a huge chunk of the development. And there will be some new ships, but the bulk of these ships for the Squadron 42 episode 1, 2, and 3 are done. They're not remaking the Bengal. They have all these fighters and all these bombers, the Vandal fleet, all that sort of stuff. There will probably be a few more additions, but the bulk of the ship work is done. The tools in order to make environments are done. And so that's the whole point of the development timeline for episode 2 and episode 3 being drastically shorter and requiring fewer resources, is because there's been so much initial investment into that for episode 1.
I think I wonder if by the time we get to episode 2 and 3, will we have the inverse effect of, well, Odin's done. Can we just get a clean, a edited version of Odin and just port that? I wonder if we're going to have Star Citizen systems that will have gameplay in episode 2 and 3. They're going to say, hey, we already have a location, just port in the location.
Yeah, port in the location.
Mark it up for story.
Yeah, mark it up for the story, or, here, like maybe at that point we have Vega in game or something like that, just spitballing something. And yeah, Vega's in game, but the specific story locations are changed in order to have it fit with the Squadron 42 timeline versus the Star
I wonder where Vega is in episode 1, because we have the Bishop Senate speech. We know that's in the game. So where is that? Is that prologue? Like, you're a Navy pilot, this is what you do. Oh no, we're at war now. Is that like the how it breaks up, or do we end on the Senate speech? Like, is Vega the thing that is the cliffhanger to get us into episode 2?
Yeah.
In which case, Vega won't need to be done till either the end of development or primarily for episode 2.
Mm-hmm. For the Delta report for the September 6th roadmap update, the only thing was the changes on the description for the Santak Yai. Was just updated to basically show that it's basically being, it's the release description. They showed the changes for the 2 new teams. So NAPU is working on freight elevators and persistent hangars. This is why they were so adamantly talking about that during the 2-part ISC on cargo. If you haven't watched that, go watch that. People are like, oh, it's going to take forever to get that. No, they're working hard on that right now.
They're almost done with. It's weird. So we got, I don't know if it was last year, the year before, we got the design brief building interiors, which was Now, if I remember correctly, that was not part of a SysCon event. It was, again, a ISC about, hey, here's something we can talk about. And except that was, they were kicking off the art sprints, like getting the concept work done, and they just had enough to say, this is what we're planning. And it was a lot of talking and not a lot of showing because it was all concept art, but very, very pretty concept art. But this one was, we've had freight elevators on and off the. I think they showed up on the release fair at one point, didn't they? The freight elevators.
Yes. Yeah. There was
Yes. So
like a
they
year
had
ago.
already planned on having these out at some point already. That's how far into development we are on this one. So it was like a design brief, but in the trenches of this giant feature already being done. And
for reference, I have it up on the progress tracker right now.
yes.
And you can see, obviously, there's been a lot of part-time work here and there, but there's been a lot of work ongoing right now for a long time. The EU landing zone team right here, this is artists working on freight elevators in order to do the artwork to make them look like they belong in the hangars. And then you have lots of work from USPU and NAPU now.
Yeah, there was a single line in the second episode where they said buy more hangar space. I don't know how many here. I'd love to see in chat, like a show of hands, how many people were here for the original hangar module and how you could expand your hangars and hangar module. Yes.
Yeah, just however many ships you had, it just kept on going.
It just bulked it out. You could actually, so there was a hangar manager that you could go into on the website, and you could actually decide how your ships are laid out in your hangar. So if you had two small ships, you could put them in the same hangar. But what everyone did was make sure you had as many hangars as possible, because we also had the PTV. So we could drive around our giant outlaid hangars in our little PTV. And they showed like the image of the like hangar with all the junk in it has been going around the communities for a little while since the first episode launched. Imagine that, but you have, giant like 890 size hangars, and you have like wide like other small like larges on each side of those with a couple small ones on each side of those. And eventually you have this giant interior where you can just do the things you need to do. You can have all your junk and just like, hey, I don't want to sell this right now. Just throw it off the ship. We need to go get the gear to go throw and do some bunkers or whatever. It becomes this like garage that everyone's been wanting to have. And it's somewhere where you don't have to just like scavenge out in the wilderness. Like, oh, there's a wrecked ships here. They have guns on them, but like we can't store them anywhere, so there's no point. Throw them on the ship, take them back to your hangar, use them next time you need to go on an outing, so you don't have to pay for more missiles. Like, it's going to be such a big thing, and also the bigger boxes for items that they're working on. Like, it's truly the cargo feature. Like everyone's been waiting.
Yep,
it's insane, and
it's very encouraging to see that there's so much priority on persistent hangars and the freight elevators right now, and the fact that they just talked about it in that ISC. Like everybody's like, oh, it's a design brief, we won't see it in forever. No, they've been working on this for a long time. There's a lot of stuff going on. It just because they don't have it available to show yet doesn't mean that there isn't a lot of work already done. And you can see that there's been a lot of work done by different teams over the years, and now it's at the point where if it's the gameplay feature team are working on it, it means that they are taking the work that's already been done and they're putting it together and getting it working before release.
I would not be shocked if they showed this at SysCon.
Yeah, I mean, we could get a preview. I definitely think that we're going to get an ISC in Q4 in order to update us on the progress and show them actually using it, and whether I don't think it'll release in Q4. It's hard to know. But there's a very good chance that this is something we could see end of the year, beginning of next year, based off of what's assigned. Because like the persistent hangars, they've got 2 engineers and a design dev working on it from just NAPU. And where'd it go? Right there. And then for the freight elevators, not only did USPU just finish some of their sprints on it between art and engineering, but they've got design and engineering picking up that work from NAPU. So obviously you can see there's been a lot of work on freight elevators. Freight elevators are a prerequisite or either pre or co-requisite. I still think that there's a chance that we'll get freight elevators in one patch. Like we could see, I think it's more likely that we could see freight elevators in Q4 and like persistent hangars in Q1. If I'm making bets, but
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good one, especially because it's a lot like Pyro in server meshing, because like you could do one without the other, but they have specifically said they're both coming together. Like you could do server meshing just in Stanton, but they said no. Pyro's coming with server meshing. Server meshing is Pyro, the same thing. But persistent hangars or instance/persistent hangars and the freight elevators definitely feel like that kind of. You could do one or the other. You could do both.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's very encouraging to see the persistent hangars and freight elevator work for NAPU. I'm very interested to see the Q4 update to the progress tracker, because not only do we not have the Q4 schedule for NAPU, we don't have it for the vehicle feature team, the new new vehicle gameplay feature team, or the USPU feature gameplay feature team. So there's a lot of gameplay related teams that don't have their Q4 schedule that are currently working on big features, things that are very important. And so we won't see those updates until next month, but it'll be very illuminating to see where they are in terms of their sprints and what's going forward, and then have that coincide with the ISCs we get in Q4 and what gets added, more importantly, what gets added to the release view for 321, because we should see that in the next couple updates. So, or at least see it get started. I think that's it for the 9.6. Now we've got the 9.20 roadmap roundup.
All right. And just as the reply in the chat, I knew exactly what he was going to. I knew it like word for word what he was going to say about the videos, because again in the tomato thing, he said that he doesn't care about development. He's here for only the video game that is the video game, not development. And he doesn't want to see anything that's not less than 6 months out. Like that's totally fair. Like that's totally an opinion to have. Then don't watch stuff. Like don't watch stuff, I guess. And it's called design brief, and those are always framed as you're not getting this anytime soon. This is ground floor work, and we just want to let you know like this should be interesting to people who want to follow the development of Star Citizen. Like that's how they intro every ISC. As we follow the development of Star Citizen, that's how they intro it. So I knew exactly what was
really important to only take what they say at literal face value, and not apply your bias and let your imagination run wild with it, because then people are going to overreact. Well, what does this mean? Does this mean that I have to do this? And then they're going to get upset. And it's like, no, they didn't say that. Well, they didn't say that they weren't doing that. It's like, okay, well,
like
why are you getting upset?
The problem with
like,
this meshing together video, I don't know if any CIG people are here. I would sign an NDA. I will gladly sign an NDA to see the unreleased sequels of meshing together. I loved that video, and the community killed it. I hate it so, because everyone's like, there was a post-it note. It said this thing. No, it didn't. It didn't say anything. It was a post-it note. And just like everyone got so riled up, and then we just don't have the stupid episode that was supposed to follow. Okay, where's my windows here? Where's my windows? All right, we are on the 20th one.
Yep. Yeah, 920.
Did I just close both of them? What's the resurrect dead tabs? That's the 6th. How did
I've dropped all the links in Discord. Just click the link.
Yeah, I had them open. I closed the one for 6th, and they both disappeared. All right. You want me to read the header again?
Sure. Yep.
All right.
Consistency.
Yes, consistency. Again, another header from sources and documents. Again, we like to make sure we have all the information on it to make sure that we are translating all the purpose of the document. So, again, happy Wednesday, everyone. Every 2 weeks, we accompany the roadmap update with a brief explanatory note to give you insight into the decision-making that led to any changes. This is a part of an effort to make our communications more transparent, more specific, and more insightful for all of you who help make Star Citizen and Squadron 42 possible. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into this week's Roadmap Roundup, the CIG community team.
All right.
That's my best impression of 2X YouTube.
I'm going to start this one off, and just because, and I'm going to do the top 2 things because it's my baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. I can rant at the bottom one. That's fine.
Yeah. So for the release view, the following cards have been added to the release view in the 320 column, targeting a launch with Alpha 320.x. Now, this kind of surprised me because I wasn't expecting it until 321. I'd kind of assumed that it was going to require a new patch, but I'll explain why this kind of makes sense. So the Argo SRV, building, implementing, and balancing Argo's tugboat, the SRV, as a game-ready vehicle.
They called it a tugboat?
Yes. And so, okay, hear me out. So the reason I love the SRV, not only because I love tractor beams, and yes, we all meme me when it comes to beams in my Discord, because I hate the medical beam thing. But in reality, I actually do like beams. I like the mining laser, which is a beam. I love the hull scraping beam. I think that I think that using lasers for things that make sense in a sci-fi universe are a good idea, and being able to, generate a tractor beam, which is just a visual representation of some sort of gravitational field or whatever to bring something to you. I think that's cool. I think it's peak sci-fi. And I love the SRV because I love the raft, and a lot of people give the mole shit. I love the mole. And I have every Argo
What do you mean
ship.
the mole's great? My mining team loves the mole.
I love the mole too. I know, but some people don't like the mole, don't like the layout. I think it's fine. I think it's great. Plus, everything Argo has VTOLs. So that, so it's VTOLs. They are the orange version of like the Tonka trucks that we all had as kids.
Yep.
But in a form of a spaceship. The SRV has vehicle tractor beams, and tractor beams are peak sci-fi to me. I don't think there's anything more science fiction than tractor beams, especially as a huge Trekkie. But then it's a tugboat. So as a kid, as a small child, like 3-4 years old, I didn't want to be a firefighter when I grew up. I didn't want to be an astronaut. I didn't want to be a soldier or anything like that. I grew up in the Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay Area. That's where my family on both sides is from, and so a lot of day tripping to the San Francisco Bay to go watch the ships, and I fell in love with tugboats at a very early age. And from a very early age and for a very long time, I wanted to be a tugboat captain when I grew up. And
nice.
My mom has dozens of little crayon drawings of stick figure Tree0311 on the bow of his tugboat sailing through the bay. And so it's
wasn't there a tugboat children's show?
I'm sure there's a children's show. I have a kid's book that is now my son's, one of his favorite. We went to the Oregon coast for vacation this last summer, and we stopped in one of these little port towns, and they had a tugboat museum, and it was the best day of my life. It was this is why I love the Argo SRV, and I'm can't wait to see the Argo SRV get the raft treatment and be able to use it in game. Now, so the other thing, obviously added to the release view, was vehicle tractor beams, implementing tractor beams attached to ships, either remote operated or turret-like attachment. This allows players to move and tow bigger objects, including other ships. And so I recently covered this in a sit rep, just to give us an update on it. And they did name off a bunch of ships with vehicle tractor beams that had gotten their art pass from the vehicle content teams in order to have the tractor beams added with the utility slots for like your app in your Moby class, your vehicle manager app. Pardon me. The only thing is when they named them off, I don't think they named off all of them. They named off most of them. And recently, this was brought up in conversation over in the Astropub Discord with Jake, and Jake wasn't certain if it was all the ships. He's like, I know it's, off the top of my head, he's like, I know it's almost all of them, if not all of them, but I can't confirm if it's every ship that has vehicle tractor beams that's in game. And so if I don't, and I should have pulled it up, and while Nazeris is talking, I'll see if I can find the right monthly report. But I think the one that the one that was omitted that comes to mind is the Taurus. But like they said, the Cat, the Cutlass, the Nomad,
which is weird because the Taurus has been in some marketing material with the tractor beams.
It's been in marketing material. It's in game. It's a turret-like attachment. But the only thing is, it is unlike the other ones where it's a tractor beam on a utility mount. Like we've seen that image of the 315P with the the tractor beam sitting on like a pedestal in front of it. Those are attached on a utility mount. The Taurus is one of the few that has a turret with the tractor beams on the side of it, and it's like a manned turret. And so that one's unique. I don't know how the reclaimers are meant to be, because the reclaimer is meant to have them. So it's going to be interesting to see as we get closer what ships have them, what ships do not. I'm hoping that ends up being all of them, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few edge cases like the Taurus and maybe the reclaimer. The other one that I don't know if it was mentioned was the Raft, because the Raft is meant to have I believe it's a size 2 in order to move the 32 SCU containers. We'll see. Because I could have sworn when it was initially concepted, it said a size 1. So that's going to be interesting to see what it ends up being, and if it gets added, because it would only get added if the Raft's cargo containers were able to be removed. And currently in 320, they are not. They don't go anywhere. They don't have that mechanism in. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Raft get its full mechanism, its full gameplay put in, but that means vehicle tractor beams, and it means the animation of the cargo lift and grabby arms that it has on it. So it'll be interesting to see. And that's it for vehicle. Actually, I'm going to. I'll pull up the monthly report for that, Naz, while you rant about the G12.
Like, don't get me wrong, I love the G12. I will drive the G12 possibly more than I drive the Ursa, though. Like, Ursa's Ursa, so it's a very warm spot in my heart. The G12 is not a military vehicle. It's not. I asked Kel this, and it's like, no, it doesn't really make sense. It makes sense that the luxury vehicle goes to the commanders and not to everyone else. But like the G12 as a military vehicle, whether it's whatever it is or the AA version, does not make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
And like they introduced the G12 at an Invictus event. That's like my whole problem. It was Invictus Day, and they're like, you know what the Navy needs? It needs a luxury 4-wheeled rover. That has 3 variants. Only one of those has any capability of fighting off anything. Then you have a bright white one and a green racing one, or a blue racing one. Like, no. Just no. I don't know if that's like the most militarized thing they had to show off as far as a concept, but like, I don't know. That just wasn't it. So I will definitely drive this thing. I'm so glad to see it on the progress tracker, especially with the blanking on names. The X1. I can't
Oh,
pull
yeah.
up two. How do you pull up?
It's on the
How do
progress
you pull up
tracker.
two things? Yeah.
Yep.
I just need my Windows to do
While you're
stuff
doing that,
correctly.
I'm gonna
Yes, what you
read.
got?
I found the two things. So it's
Mm-hmm.
the April and May monthly reports. And so the April monthly report, it says specifically the LOD pass on the Argo SRV was completed. Relating to this, a support pass for tractor beams began, which includes retrofitting the new vehicle tractor beam onto existing supported ships. It also involves ensuring that all valid components can be removed using the FPS tractor beam. So which includes retrofitting the new vehicle tractor beam onto existing supported ships. So that to me suggests that it should be all ships that are released that have it. But then in the May monthly report, and they may have done the more difficult ones first, we don't know, but they only specified in the May monthly report the team approached the end of their pass on vehicle tractor beams. This included work on the Origin 315P, Drake Caterpillar and Cutlass Black, Consolidated Outland Nomad, and Misk Hull C. Now, I assume that the Spirit C1 will have already had this work done during its development, so that makes sense. If it doesn't, that seems like a giant oversight. But the Reclaimer is supposed to have tractor beams on the side. I just don't remember if they are turreted ones like the Taurus. If anyone knows in chat, let me know. But then obviously the omission of the Taurus on this is interesting. But they did mention the whole C, and you can see in all the recent B-roll we've gotten of the whole C that the vehicle tractor beams are on there, and it's the new MISC ones that they introduced with the MISC Expanse. So, yeah. Yeah, the G12 military variant strikes me as very Hurston Dynamics Messer era weirdness.
But it's not, is it?
No, it's not. No.
No, okay.
It's just that's the weird part of it. It's like it feels out of place.
It does. It always has. That polar raft looks so good. I love the raft. I hate the raft. It's such a ugly duckling because of its feature set. It's so weird.
So yeah, and the Delta
if you want to
report.
open up the link I sent you.
Oh, hold on.
So this is what I was trying to say. I'm really excited that the G12's up because the X1 is also getting its work actually right now. So by the end of the year, we'll have both the Origin vehicles done and dusted.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do we have any
very
concepts
surprised
of Origin ships?
If the concepts,
I think that's the entire backlog of Origin.
Yeah, that's everything Origin.
I really need to save this shot somewhere else. I keep having to go back up. And
the G12 was added to the progress tracker. I hope, but I don't. I hesitant to bet on the G12 making it in this short of time. I think that the G12 might be a Q1 or even Q2.
Look up the links. How long do the links take? Like obviously it's not a variant, but they kind of redid the entire Ursa for the links. And they've said as much.
Was essentially 2 full quarters.
Okay, so we'll get it first patch of next year. Yeah,
I could see that. I think the X1 could probably make it because it's already had work done. I think that one could be a Q4 release. Hey, Smithy Joe Bob, how's it going?
Welcome. Hey, how's it going?
So yeah,
first two-time SCCCRT host.
The Delta report for the 9/20 September 20th Roadmap Roundup. Obviously, they updated the SRV, added it to the 320 release window. Same thing with vehicle tractor beams. The only thing that was odd, and Naz and I were talking about this before the show, was work was removed from the Crusader Spirit.
Hey, you remembered.
I did remember. Yay. I specifically told Naz, like, don't let my Dementia. So,
Don't tell him
yeah,
forget is what he's trying to say.
the Crusader Spirit had work going all the way out to here, and that work was removed. I think we're still getting the Spirit, but the odd thing is that it was just mentioned in the August monthly report here of getting work done and being in a significantly advanced part. And so Shiny Hobo specifically asked Jake, hey, what gives? And Jake is like, I don't know. I'll get back to you. And so I think we're going to get
We're still waiting.
Spirit work added back onto the progress tracker. It might not be the EU vehicle content team. Maybe it's the the US vehicle content team is picking it up from here and taking it, the final sprint. Don't know. But we know that this is not correct. The work didn't stop here because they mentioned it in, like, I think it was both of these monthly reports. So don't fret, don't dismay, everyone. It's going to be okay. They're not finished. They are on the release view for 320.x, but they just mentioned them in the August monthly report. Here, I'll pull it up.
We are really due for another big ship. Like, so I'm looking at the last unreleased ships. Remember the image we had a bunch of episodes ago? There's a slightly updated one to May 28th.
Maybe it's July.
And like the ships that are unreleased from like the first 5 years are the Idris M, Merchantman, Hull C, that's now out, Orion, Idris P, Endeavor, Genesis, Javelin, Hull B, Hull D, Hull E, and Polaris. Like big ships post 2017, Pioneer, Kraken. Like other than that, it's Perseus, Liberator, Odyssey. Those are like large ships, not big ships. So we are way overdue for big ships. It's been 5 years.
Yeah, Blizzard, I think that's something that retroactively they should have done, because the 400i, like, they said that, hey, this little bay is meant for the X1, but it doesn't come with it, even though the Constellation comes with an Ursa rover or a Lynx.
Yeah, they better redo that. That seems ridiculous. It's an origin ship. They should be all about the add-ons.
Yeah.
Like,
so right here, July monthly report, Crusader A1 Spirit progressed through final art with a handful of LODs remaining for its interior and exterior damage. So it's almost done with final art. It's just giving a few more level of detail.
And you said that was July?
LODs. Yeah, this is July. And then work also continued on the C1 cargo variant, with the main difference being minor exterior changes and the cargo room, the latter of which currently progressing through gray box with most of the core forms refined. So the C1 is in earlier final art in other parts of the ship, and the cargo area is in gray box, whereas the A1 was in final art, and this is as of the end of, as of July. And here we have it, the work ending in mid-June. So yeah, we'll get it sometime in October is when the progress tracker will get rectified, hopefully, and we'll have some answers to some of these questions. And I think that's
and Polaris
it.
is currently being worked on. It should be out next year.
Yeah, my bet is for Polaris. I think they're gunning for Invictus launch week 2024.
You think Invictus? I was gonna say CitizenCon next year.
Nope, I think it's Invictus. I think because when they talked about the Polaris, like over a year and a half ago, John Cruz said, if we put the Polaris into production right now, it would take a year to a year and a half to finish it, and that's with the UK team working on it and not working on anything else. And obviously that means that like this part of the UK team would work on it up to this point, and then this part would pick up for them, after that for
But
their
they
portion.
didn't put it directly into production. It sat for like 6 months.
Yeah, and so it went into pre-production in the spring, is now essentially in full production by now, and it was a year to 18 months, and that was before they made all the changes to the vehicle pipeline that they talked about in the Invictus launch week vehicle roundup, whatever you want to call it. So I think they are shooting for a year. I think it might slip, but
That
there are
would
a
be
lot of
an
resources on it.
amazing, like thematically, it would be an amazing release for this.
Yeah, and they did that entire interior concept rework, which was full white
when we
box.
last saw the Polaris, there's an ISC out there. I think it was an ISC.
Yep.
Last we saw, it was at the edge of gray box. Like it was white box complete. So
yeah,
there was even a little like dabbling into gray box because artist be artist. So like a couple of forms were just over refined from white box. So I just don't see it getting done that fast.
I think that's what they're going for. See. I don't know if it'll make it, but I think that's what this is our test bed for the capital ship pipeline for, and this is the first big ship that we're building with the new pipeline that we've developed. And so we're going to aim for that lower end of the goal that we talked about to see if we can get it done in that amount of time. But this is also going to be the test bed of the pipeline in order to refine it further for the ones that come after. So they'll make additional improvements and everything, but they're going to see, hey, if these other, because they talked about how there's been multiple ships that have released, in the last year that have gone through the new pipeline where they accurately predicted when they'd be done with it, like within a matter of days, if not weeks. Like that's how accurate they were with their productions.
So next May
predictions.
Is when you think.
And that's why so many of these things, that like vehicles, if you go back and look at the Shinytracker over the last year, you haven't seen a lot of changes to vehicle development for vehicles in production because they've gotten so good at predicting, hey, we're going to schedule this out and this is all that they're going to need because we've got the pipeline down so accurately. And so I think that's what we're probably going to see.
8 months, huh?
Yeah. But it's 8 months, but they started pre-production at the beginning of April.
So for sure. I'm just saying 8 months from now. Yeah.
So it's essentially like a little over a year from pre-production to, it's basically 14 months from the start of pre-production to release. And that's going into it with a full concept rework in white box.
Yeah. And from what they said, it seems like it would then roll on to the next RSI combat ship. So it would be, I think it was Polaris Galaxy Perseus because that's the size of them. But it may be Perseus than Galaxy. I don't know which one they want to do that one in. I wouldn't be surprised much more than the Perseus. I know a lot of people who want the Perseus much more than anything else in the world. So we'll see which way they do it. But I think it
depends on the gameplay.
I hope they spin up the Kraken sometime soon. Whether it be the team after getting these 3 ships done, then moving on to the Kraken and doing that out or whatnot. But we also need the Pioneer. It's gonna be interesting how many big ships they're gonna have in production at the same time because we're gonna have to get some concurrency. Well, we talked about this in one of the previous episodes, the throughput versus
throughput versus flight time.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, within 2 or 3 months of us doing that podcast, we talked about specifically how, hey, they're growing. CIG is growing leaps and bounds. And part of that growth is they're going to expand the vehicle content teams. Lo and behold, they founded a new team within a couple months of us saying that. It's
Montreal team.
not only they found a new team in Montreal that they said they're going to continue to grow, but they also said they're going to build additional teams in the UK on top of the one that they already have, which is the biggest one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
So-
literally, said to everyone's faces, "Hey, we have done a whole lot of work in order to update the vehicle pipeline to make sure that we are able to accurately predict the resources that we need and schedule things appropriately and get things done in a timely manner." And so that's the flight time. They've updated the tools, and now they are increasing the amount of people working on ships in order to increase the throughput. It's like Naz and I were both, standing over our crystal ball, and it's not hard
one
to
of
predict
the
this
rare
stuff.
times that they actually like telegraph their actions through the actions they've already done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's not always that happens, but like the people who pay attention can see it. So it's kind of cool.
So that wraps up the Roadmap Roundups for September. And thank you for everybody who is hanging out in chat, and we appreciate all the input and the feedback. It's really good to see everybody. After this month, this is my therapy, being able to hang out with Naz and all of you, just because this month has been so brutal. And tomorrow it starts 7 days off, and get to go on vacation and go visit family in Sacramento and have my 20-year high school reunion. So really looking forward to that. But I was like, oh, yay, we get to do the podcast. We get to hang out and talk Star Citizen. And I haven't even launched the game in weeks, if not longer. And so I just want to say I appreciate all of you. And now we're going to launch into the 318, 319 Post Mortem. So
they're dead. We killed them.
Yep. ain't got no gas in it. And I just have to say I had an awful lot of fun with the GIF/video that I used for Twitter and the Discord posts to highlight what we're going to be talking about this evening. I was teaching today, and that all came to mind. I was like, oh, this is going to be so much fun. And I got done an hour early, and I ran home really fast and put it all together. And then I was like, oh, gosh, I'm running late. I have to go pick up the kid. But got it all done.
Nice.
But,
I'm very convinced after seeing this image again. I just noticed the bear head. The bear head is the content. There goes their name again. The content capture team's favorite helmet. Like, it is stupid. They put it into the gun rush mode as the final tier. When you have a knife, you also have the bear head. It's hilarious. I am not personally a fan of it. I much rather the Vandal
one.
No, the Terravan mask. What it was. What's it called? Adding so many more tabs.
I specifically clipped this out from ISC just because I thought this was hysterical, and it's exactly what you're talking about. And this is a GIF in my Discord that I saved to my favorites. So,
no, not Vandal. Day of Vara.
Oh, the Day of the Vara. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the serial killer's name? No, there's not a specific name for the. It's just serial killer mentioning blah blah. No, it's just Neville Lott and his version of the mask to commemorate the serial killer. Everyone knows humans love a good serial killer. Anyway.
All right, so let's get started with the
going
post mortem. Yep. And so this is one of those things where there was multiple Spectrum posts asking, "Hey, where's the 318 post mortem? Where's the 318 post mortem?" And Jake just kept on saying, "It's not done yet. We're working on it. There's a lot of data to collate, and there's a reason why it's this effing long, and it's because it's the post mortem for the most monumental patch and patch cycle, because it was 318 and 319." In the history of Star Citizen. in my opinion. So
Only
lots of
till
data.
server meshing, but yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And there's
And
even we're gonna be touching it later. There's even in the reply of a certain somebody who has not posted on Spectrum for 4 years. It's even gonna give us more information on why what happened in this patch happened.
yes, a lot of really good context regarding hey, why did PES and why did 318 happen this way? Not only beyond what we already know from what they've talked about with the changes to the PTU patch cycle in terms of it not getting the stress testing that it needed, but also the guts of it, and why the guts are not as sturdy as we would like them to be. So I'm going to get us started, and then while Nazeris is continuing, I'm going to go get some more water because lots to talk about this evening. So Alpha 318's launch. As many of our players experienced, we launched Alpha 318 on March 10 of this year, and alongside a bevy of high-profile new features like Salvage, the Vulture patch flyable ship, the surprise Scorpius Antares, new rivers, and new missions, the biggest headliner of the patch was our delivery of persistent entity streaming, which completely rewrote how we save state in the game and ushered in the beginning of the promise of a truly persistent universe where players' actions could remain in the game for others to interact with and create a lived-in environment where you could literally leave your mark in the PU. And just as importantly, PES was the necessary final stepping stone to delivering static server meshing. Many who follow Star Citizen appreciated how consequential and important our delivery of Alpha 318 was for us and the game itself. Many teams at CIG spent most of the second half of last year finishing our persistent entity streaming as we deployed it to our public test universe servers for testing in December 2022. And then spent the next 3 months attempting to harden and improve it for launching to our live Star Citizen service as quickly as possible. However, when the moment of truth came and April and Alpha 318 shipped to live, the shock to the system was beyond what we had projected. While it's true that we expected PES to create a rough experience initially as we ironed out the issues that could only expose themselves at massive scale, and we warned as much, to say that we were surprised by the depth of chaos from the PES launch would be an understatement. The anticipation for PES and 318 was nothing short of unprecedented for us. When the patch first dropped on March 10th, we experienced our highest peaks ever for logins per minute and per hour, and had our highest number of attempted logins in a day for the first few days of launch. So unprecedented levels of concurrency, far and beyond what Invictus Launch Week brings, which is Invictus Launch Week is actually even bigger than IAE now, I think, when it comes to concurrency. And so if they're stripping out Invictus Launch Week, which brings in like up to 100,000 in terms of player concurrency, that's insane.
Yeah.
So let's see. We say attempted logins because, as you all know, the service was so overwhelmed by the traffic and teething pains of PES that many players could not get into the game, as various issues stalled users throughout the login funnel. Some were stuck in queues, some couldn't get their characters to load, and some were stuck at an infinite loading screen. As you can read more about in Benoit Besajour's, who is the chief technical officer, account below on PES, we underestimated the multiplicative forces of going to live and now creating and persisting every entity players created through their actions, creating a load on our service that was beyond our initial forecast. And it took weeks, if not months, to expose, diagnose, create fixes, test them, and deploy them to restore the service, all while the game was still running on live. This is maybe Joe Bob. I love how Corpo Speak manages to really pad out stuff was totes borked, buddy. Yeah, it's that gif of everything is on fire and there's an ostrich running through the office. We learned a lot from the launch of PES, and while we are still recovering and regret the compromised service in the first days and weeks of the rollout, it has definitely taught us a valuable lesson to value and preserve the integrity of the service more than we had in the past. That's why, as we begin to roll out the replication layer split and crash recovery, two things now enabled by PES, we will do so gradually. And as we begin to deliver server meshing, we will create dedicated testing channels to harden those new technologies further and implement standards and thresholds before we graduate them to PTU and then live. You'll start to see the ramifications of that later in the year and hear more from us later about our new approach to deploying potentially disruptive and game-changing new tech to the game service. But it comes down to us truly committing to preserving the experience for the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, who now play Star Citizen as a live service game, albeit an alpha still in development. So,
I want to
before
know
Naz
who wrote
continues,
this.
I think it was really good. The sentences could have been broken up
This
more.
is the first time they said disruptive.
Yeah.
This is not Jake. This is not anyone that like regularly makes posts.
Well, I'm sure they had a hand in it, but this is definitely a collective effort for sure.
Yes, but I'm talking about this intro specifically is somebody who like has that business class, knows Star Citizen, knows how hard it was, but also sees the I guess I just reiterate the business about CIG. Like all of us, all the backers, well, all the backers who know what Star Citizen is, have always like had this server meshing and like doing this world is something that no one else does or will do or has ever attempted. It is disruptive, but this is the first time CIG has said we're creating disruptive technology. Disruptive technology is one of those key phrases that you hear at Computex, which is where NVIDIA goes to tout their AI. Like, it's not something you hear at Gamescom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a very specific phrase.
Yeah.
And
Used in this context, it's more. It has more meaning to it than you might otherwise think.
And I think it's interesting. Right at the beginning, that said, player like rewrote how that players truly leave your mark on the thing, and how players can do that now. I think a lot of people post 2 months after PES, even just 2 months, forget the game before PES.
Yeah.
Like,
object permanence is lacking in this community. Sorry, not sorry.
Because like people
the
like,
Star Citizen
why
community,
do we need PES?
our
Nothing's changed.
community
Like,
right
you
here.
have no idea what you're playing then.
Yeah.
Like, I understand, like, a lot of people have come in since PES's launch. Like, a lot of people.
Oh, I can't wait to hear the letter from the chairman at the end of the year, because I'm sure we'll get one, and to get the update when it comes to how many new players, how many new accounts, what the new record for concurrency is and such, because they'll recap all this and they'll give us the figures that they've given us before. Yeah. I think the big thing to...
Go ahead.
I think the big thing that I take away from this is there's been a lot of people complaining about the release of 320, and they're like, well, you guys made all this hullabaloo in the Post Mortem about these things not happening in the future. And it's like, no. They are going to do their best. They're going to try everything they can to not have these sort of disruptions. And the disruption with 320 was monumentally less than 319, which was monumentally less than 318. They're not going to go from 0 to 100 in a single patch cycle, because everybody has to remember that this is the first patch, the first new dev branch since the 318 dev branch. 319 was the same dev branch. It was just an evolution of the 318 dev branch. And so people thinking that suddenly with 320, bad things aren't going to happen with the release of a patch are not reading this appropriately and are reading it with bias and interpreting it out of context. They tell you that they're going to integrate things gradually. Okay, well, they didn't integrate new tech with 320. It's just an evolution of what we have already. But they implemented fixes and things and updates, and they already talked about how, hey, we implemented these updates and they didn't work, so we rolled it back, and now it's working. And it's all within a week.
One person whining about invisible players.
Yeah, there's been a lot of improvements, a lot of changes. 320 is already a better patch than 319. The first couple days, it's had some issues, but they've already diagnosed things. They released a big, a whole bunch of hot fixes over the weekend. Like, they're putting a whole lot of effort into making this right. Did they get 100% right? No. Should anyone be expecting 100% right in the first new dev branch after 318? Absolutely not. You're on fucking drugs if you think that we should be have those sort of expectations just because you read Post Mortem. It's like, no, you need to read this in detail and put it in appropriate context. That's why we're here.
The problem is, like, even if they read it, comprehending it is something you can't really do easily, because you have to take it with a year of context, and that is something a lot of people just don't have, unfortunately. And I say this a lot when we talk about new players and talking about the development. We should not, cannot, will not expect new players to go dive into the comp link and read literally every post down to 2012 that CIG has posted. It's you can't do that. And this postmortem was specifically a bookend to the last year of Star Citizen, because it has been that long that they've been working on it.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who read it that had the year context, they have no excuse. But like you said, like this, that they didn't say that it's going to be better. They said they're going to try and be better. And people, like you said earlier, they don't. A lot of people don't stop reading when they stop reading. They read into something and they apply bias or subtext where there is no subtext.
You said it was going to be better. Yes, and it is better. It's not perfect, but it is better.
Like,
it's an improvement.
A lot of stuff in the 320 is a lot better. Frame rates are up again. You can get a pretty consistent 60 in some places. 60 plus if you in certain places in the.
Yeah, there's inventory bugs, but like the issues in the first day or two have already resolved. Whereas, you remember when 319 launched. 319, was a dumpster fire for multiple days. And it had if not longer, it was like a week or two, and it struggled. And we were like, oh gosh, when is this going to end? And it just kept on going. And until we got to 319.1 post Invictus launch week, we had no stability. We had no performance from the back end. And we had a couple days where it's like, oh, you got some issues, and some things going wrong, and some stuff was lost, and they applied a fix over the weekend, and here we are. And now 320 is in a great state, and it's going to continue to get better because we have planned .x patches.
Yeah, and I don't know how many people logged into the game when Lorville was first added, which was the first true landing zone. I think there was Levski, but Lorville was the big one. There was no getting over 10 FPS.
Yeah,
there just wasn't. You weren't getting it, and you loved it. Like, it was a game that like did something no one else did. Fully realized plants with a entire city plopped on it, and you could just walk out the city. And like no one had done that yet, and it's a weird thing to be like, wow, we just now have full item persistence, or like we have a marginally good or a marginally better patch being 320, and like, wow, this sucks. It's like, I'm getting well over 60 FPS over here. Talk about that sucks. Like, yes, some people have a lot of bugs. I fortunately don't have a ton. I seem to dodge a lot of bugs somehow. But like, it is so much better that like we're not at the point where we're ready to do that push to beta yet. So whatever stability we have is good stability. Until they're starting to like go for beta, stability is a luxury. It's an alpha game. Their job is chock it full of content, not fix stuff. They're fixing stuff because they want people to test the new content they're putting in.
Mm-hmm. Why don't you continue with the persistent enemy streaming part? And remember, this is written by the chief technical officer, Benoit Besaujour. Yeah. And I'm going to go
I
get
just
some
kind of
more.
muddle through it and hope it comes out in a semi-well way.
I'm gonna have my headphones on. I'm just gonna run downstairs, get some more water, and get another beer.
So I can't talk bad about you while you're gone? That sucks.
You can, but I'll hear it.
I'll stab you in your front and stab you back. It's fine. Persistent entity streaming. What went well? The development of persistent entity streaming, PES, involved a diverse strike team of programmers with specialized skills from multiple areas across the core tech group Turbulent, or core tech group and Turbulent. This collaboration was crucial in successfully building the complex system. The strike team followed aligned sprints and goals, facilitated by senior engineers and producers that were supported by regular meetings. This resulted in effective communication and minimized miscommunication or technical misunderstandings. A high code quality bar was maintained by the strike team, who ensured it underwent through thorough design, discussion, and multiple reviews before being integrated into the mainline codebase. The initial deployment to the public test universe (PTU) testing with the PTU community went well, setting a positive foundation for the further improvements. Finally, PES system architecture and API were based on durable queues, proved they can recover from the worst kind of problems safely and always tend towards recovery. What didn't go well? Much longer paragraph here. The research and development aspect of PES posed challenges, requiring the engineers to invent ways around unforeseen problems. Due to the foundational nature of PES, integrating it into Star Citizen's game code resulted in significant changes that disrupted the game at the very low level. Some game teams were unprepared for the integration efforts required to bring the game systems back to parity or to convert and leverage the new persistent layer for existing features. The issue with the changes introduced by PES became apparent during large-scale use under heavy player load, which caused delays in identifying and resolving the problems. And features were not thought to use persistence at all became affected by trivial delays, like tram systems, spawn queues, and others. We also underestimated the multiplication factor between the PTU and the live operations. The group had estimated a 10K increase in backend activity, but were faced with 20K plus increase in requests. Stream message
20 times. That's insane.
Plus, sometimes plus 20,
Yeah.
like it's
More
up to
than
20 or above.
More than double what they had anticipated. That's crazy.
Yeah. Stream message size and overall activity, which caused service outages across the board during the initial launch. Regarding vehicles, PES heavily modified the way that are entitled and created in-game. Yep, let me read that one again. Regarding vehicles, PES heavily modified the way they are entitled and created in-game. This gives a better user experience where you can choose where your ship ends up being created, but also significantly reduces the size of the inventory global database for ships that are never used. That's a good, I don't know why that's in the not go well thing.
Which part?
That's the regarding vehicles. Like it's all positive. Regarding vehicles, it heavily modifies how it's creating game. I guess that's the negative. They have to do a lot of work, but this gives players a user
but also
experience
significantly reduce the size of
inventory of the global database. That's a really good thing. It's the first line. It took a lot of time to implement, but it gives us lots of bonuses. Great. I'm glad they did the work.
Yeah.
Major issues were also discovered at scale with a third-party database engine. See, I missed this when I heard it the time. Major issues. Wow, my screen's actually very warm. I don't touch my screen very often. Major issues were also discovered at scale with a third-party
This part is
database
very
engine.
important.
And we will come back to this in future of this episode. That PES leverages for its functionality. Let me read that part again. A third-party database engine that PES leverages for its functionality. These issues gave birth to a very unstable request/response cycle, as well as heavy queuing. These issues also cause ripple effects where one database server entered a deadlock condition would cause the entire shard cluster, instead of a single shard, to stop processing requests for a period. Basically, it took too much resources on the hardware that all the other shards started being affected. Because the servers can run multiple games on the server side on a single hardware server. Because a single DGS does not take up an entire processor or whatever hardware does.
Yeah, a physical server is split into multiple digital servers. And so what they're saying clusters. Is that, a deadlock in this one for PES for this and this for PES for this server was causing deadlocks across that
the entire hardware.
Yeah.
That's a deadlock.
Yeah. That's not good.
This was a major cause of the instability throughout Alpha 3.18x until the team had identified the problem or identified and programmed a workaround to alleviate the effects. They didn't fix it. They found a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, multiple locking problems at scale were discovered in the global database system. Same engine. Ooh, that's a stabby one.
Yeah.
It's like, it's still their fault.
Yep.
That would cause a periodic stop of all requests to the inventory systems.
Yeah.
If you want to know why we don't have lockers yet, I bet it's that. The team also had to investigate and report to our vendors to determine. The team also had to investigate and report to our vendors to determine workarounds and ultimately fixes that would prevent the database engine from locking. So, oh man, that's another stabby one. So it wasn't CIG it wasn't their tech that they just like throw an engineer out and say, go fix it. They had their QA go at it. Okay, now go report to the guys who actually work on it so they can do their QA on their side so that they can tell their engineers over there to get on it to submit a fix to you guys so you can QA the fix so you can integrate into the code.
So this is a great analogy for why Star Citizen CIG has built their own engine to run Star Citizen on instead of licensing an engine from someone else. Because if you license an engine from someone else, you are wholly dependent on them for adding features and updating the engine to do what you need it to do. Yeah. Cough, Unity, cough.
Oh, yeah.
So if the engine is built is built to do what you need it to do, that's fine. You can build your game around the features that it already has. But if you require additional support, your people are having to call tech support somewhere else and get, their help from someone else versus just talking to your own people. Yeah.
You see Smith?
Yes, Smith.
Oh my gosh.
Are you?
That's great.
Oh God, are they really putting condom commercials on our podcast?
I mean, it's an Emerald game, so like I can't like it's Twitch and it's an Emerald game, so like content or advertisers are gonna hate Star Citizen content. So,
but this is the perfect analogy for that. But this is instead of it being the game, the engine the game runs on, it's the engine that PES runs on, and so they took the engine. And just like how the other games have taken an engine and built a game on top of that, Star Citizen took the database engine and built their database system on it, but the underlying engine didn't quite have the capacity to be able to deal with the throughput that they needed it to. The ability to scale. And because they don't, CIG doesn't own the engine, they didn't build it from the ground up. In order to make the adjustments and the fixes that they needed, they had to go back to the vendor, the people who developed the database engine, and ask for help from them. And that's why there's so many issues that required so much time to get done, because they're having to work with a third party versus just the internal team. If it was an issue that that was from how they built their database system on top of the engine, then it was likely something that it was much easier for them to rectify versus if it was the engine from the third party vendor themselves. Macton SC says, I'd be surprised if any games make their own database engine. Oh yeah, absolutely not. That's a very niche
thing.
You're absolutely right. It's a very niche thing, and I can't imagine that there's a lot of gameplay developers or video game developers that would ever want to maintain that sort of specialty team to be able to develop that specifically, especially because a lot of that is,
I mean, there was at one point
an initial investment, and then after that it's mostly just maintenance. So yeah, no, I this is the struggle of this, and what I'm curious about is how would this compare with the failure of iCache? And with iCache, were they using a specific vendor for that database system, that database engine?
iCache was thought of like early days.
Yeah, but I don't think they developed iCache, the engine that iCache ran on, in-house. That's I'm sure they probably did a third-party system as well. I don't know.
And I don't remember it wasn't, and it wasn't even. They didn't even get very far. I mean, they got to the end of the initial development of iCache. So when they were getting ready to start integrating, so it just got out of like alpha of iCache.
They were getting ready to put it into the main dev branch, and as they were trying to integrate it in the main dev branch, it failed.
They realized it's too slow.
Yeah.
And with that knowledge, they said, "Okay, we need to pivot and work on this other thing." And they still they're what they have is still too slow. And it doesn't scale. Yeah. It's too slow for the entire game.
It doesn't scale at speed is the issue. Is it will scale, but if the demand goes up too fast, it takes a while to scale, and then because that demand went up too fast, it's been deadlocking. Whereas if demand was more
controlled,
predicted. Exactly, more controlled, more predictable, it would scale. Just it just doesn't do it quickly enough in certain instances, and I think that they'll be able to get it there because they've tested it to be able to do that, but tested it in a digital environment, versus testing it in a live environment with actual people and external connections. So
yeah. It's like the opener said, it is a disruptive technology. Nobody has done a MMO at this scale with this granularity. Like even a Minecraft server. And Minecraft is a very like sandboxy game because you can build whatever you want. You can have items all over the place. Even Minecraft, even vanilla Minecraft, no plugins, none of your own code, deletes items on a single player game. I think it's like 8 minutes at most. Will delete any items on the ground. So some servers even take that a step further and saying we're going to have a bot running or a plugin that will periodically clear all ground. It's about every 15 minutes normally, 10 to 15 minutes, and will periodically kill any entities. Some are harsher than others. And it's not great optimized game, but most games aren't really greatly optimized, especially current ones. And Star Citizen comes in and says, we're going to make everything. We have millions of polygons on literally everything. Like a soda can is like 1,000-something polygons. Like it's ridiculous the quality level. I don't know exact numbers. Don't come at me if you're an artist. And there's we're gonna make this can stay forever. Wherever you put it, you can hoard all the cans and drop them into a crater on a moon, and we're gonna make them stay there forever. Nobody's done that. No one's wanted to do that. That's ridiculous. Why would you ever do that? Enter Chris Roberts. Like that's the weird part about PES is it's no one's ever wanted, like they've wanted to try this. Everyone has wanted to try this ever evolving, expanding universe that lives with its players, not exists and your players play on it like a game board. Like most games are like a game board. You play on the world. This one plays with your players. The board is with the players. It evolves with your players.
I think the big
insane.
I think the big thing is that the scaling in response to demand is not going to be as feasible as they'd like. I think they're going to have a buffer in terms of database ability, because it can scale. It's just if it scales too fast, beyond what's immediately available, then you start running into issues. I think they're going to have to run, utilize more resources in terms of running the database. Then here's the bare minimum, and we'll only scale it up when there's more demand. Kind of like the idea for dynamic server meshing. Once you reach a point, then we'll spin up more servers. I think they're going to have to reduce that threshold to be able to say, okay, we can't let it get stressed to this point before we start adding more resources to for the demand for the database system. I think they're going to have a larger buffer, have less demand, and that way they can approach you start adding more resources at the 70% mark instead of the 95% mark. So that way you're already adding resources, and start, spinning those up well before you start getting to that higher threshold where you start having issues. The issue with that is that costs money. And no game company that runs a live game on the internet wants to spend more money for servers than absolutely necessary. And that's, part of an issue with Star Citizen and its development running a live service is it is so expensive to run that. You can see it in the annual financial reports, how much money it costs for them to run the live service. That's part of the reason they took that big initial investment. Right. So I think that's probably going to be part of the solution to the problem is you can't run Star Citizen's live service as lean as they would like to. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to fork over more money.
Yeah. And hello, AO, also part of the org.
Yes, Aodonin. Yep. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
So really glad to have you. Glad you could join us this evening. Always welcome. Sorry, Naz, I got you sidetracked.
Oh, that's fine. That's the
super important.
Yeah, I think we're pretty good to rant on this stuff because it's not like surface stuff. This is deep stuff. This is, like I said, a year in review, basically. Like
deep
that's how long we've been working
with Nazeris.
Yeah. Welcome to Deep Thoughts with. So we got 2 more paragraphs than the future. So in the engine, several shards reach previously unknown hard limits of the maximum number of allocated entities. This thing scares me for making games because I know Unreal Engine has one too. Like you are not allowed to have X entity or Unreal entities above this hard cap. And for sandbox games, that it just basically means you cannot build anything else. And it is an engine level hard limit. and it is terrifying because I really want to develop a voxel sandbox game on Unreal Engine, but like, how do you not hit that limit if you want everything to stay around? So I haven't figured that one out yet. Forcing the team to seed/create new shards and cycle them out, diluting the effect of persistence on those shards. So basically, after a server lives for so long, they need to kill it because they just don't have any more ability to make more entities. No more cans. What the heck are you guys doing?
I'm flirting with North End Trooper. We know each other IRL, so it's allowed.
It's okay. Several bugs were uncovered in those unstable times. I need someone to come reread this as Tolkien. With the error handling in parts of the login flow that bricked some accounts. Oof. Yeah, no, that's the accounts that we've heard of. Cat, I need those arms. In some accounts, in different ways related to character creation. Server crash handling was discovered to take much longer account of time due to a new process that kicked in during the post-mortem analyst. This affected the shard post-mortem and delayed players getting stowed back to the global inventory, which could result in a player being stuck in a shard. So that was basically all the horrors of PES, and there's more to go because we have an entire other post to read about the horrors of PES. Basically continuation of that paragraph, except from a higher level perspective.
Mm-hmm.
What will do better / future plans going forward? We'll finalize and use the new cloud test launcher to adequately, there we go, stress test the engine's shard at scale. So their cloud test launcher is basically being able to run clients like players from the comfort of the office. Like it's kind of like Quantum, except Quantum are if Quantum were players, there we go. And being able to say, here's 100,000 system. And if it's a repeatable process, they can use the cloud test launcher. That way, the thing we had where they had a 20x they were expecting 10x players from PTU, they could test that. They could even go further and say, what happens if we have 100x from PTU? And they can test that.
Yep. I think the misnomer, people read this and thought that, oh, this is already done. It's ready to go. They'll use it in 320. Why 320 have these problems if they have this tool? I don't think it's done. I think that going forward,
I think it's the same state as kind of like Rastar. Yeah. Like
it says we'll finalize and use the new cloud test launcher. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not at the 1.0 state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have used it. They are using it for several things. They've been talking about it for like little test things that they do now and again. Like the QA team has a version of this, but it is not. It's not built into their release. The release pipeline yet.
I'm sure that the development of this has changed dramatically with the 3.18 patch cycle and everything that they've learned. That okay, look at all these features and abilities we need this test launcher to have in order to adequately stress these different things. Because we were talking about this in the Astropub Discord today. Macton was there. He was part of that conversation, and this is why I was like, I don't think it's done. I think that's why part of the reason 320 still had issues is because I don't think this launcher is quite done yet. I think that they got so much information out of the 3.18 patch cycle that they're like, okay, we needed to do this, we need to do that, and we need to add these different things so that way all these different it has the ability to test these different aspects of the database in different ways to prevent this. But I don't think it's done. I don't think it's ready there. Ready for them to I don't think it was ready for them to use during the 3.18 or 3.20 QA and dev cycle.
Unfortunately, Smithy said if they can simulate players and their behaviors, does that include flying? And does that do you And if it does, do you think that they can make NPCs that can fly around racetracks? I don't think it's that granular. If they can fly and maneuver a ship in whatever physics, it doesn't matter what they're doing as long as they're moving the ship in physics.
Yeah, it's just
So
going to
whether they're
show.
like
Ooh.
if as long as they're navigating around an area using up CPU or whatever, creating entities, navigating a 3D environment,
Yep.
FPS in space, going on trams, simulating the trams, buying, selling things. It doesn't really matter what the goal of these NPCs are, or these, headless testing things, apparatus. So I don't think we'll be getting NPCs racing. Well, I mean, we have the stuff to make NPCs race. They just need to dedicate engineering time to make them, to connect the systems, because we have the 3D environment stuff. We just got they just got to tell the thing, or tell NPCs how to generate a line to go through it, and then they can use their trait system that they've been working on for virtual NPCs and so on to give us an idea, or give the NPCs an idea of how risky they are. How much are they going to push their ship? Are they going to play it safe and pull back their speed? Or are they going to push their speed and end up in a wall? So there's a lot of dev to go on the personality of flight. And if you just make other racers, like if you play any racing game, you'll see all the racers in the game will have a slightly different way of taking a turn. They'll push the speed a little bit differently. They'll brake at different times. And they need to spend dev time to make that kind of personality changes into the game, especially
while leaving
because
developers free.
it's now a racing game. They need to pilot to the area to then switch over to racing mode in like the NPC brain to then go around the track. Is it a 1-lap track? Is it a 3-lap track? Is it a weapons-free track? There's a lot of dead time still to go on NPCs doing. That was a big rant.
There we go. Hold on. I found the link. I found the ISC from last year where they talked about this. Let's see.
As an NPC, I have goals. You can be a real PC someday, forgot. I mean, that's it. When I saw the Free Guy commercials, it's like, please don't give Chris ideas. Please stop. We do not need singularities happening in Star Citizen.
All right, so I'm posting the link with timestamp. Is that? Did I get it with the timestamp? Crap.
Yep, it's with the timestamp. You can see equals 300 something.
Okay, cool.
At the end.
So that is the link with timestamp.
Oh, it's an EVE Online trailer. I'm like, what ship is that? It's an EVE Online trailer.
That is the link with timestamp to the ISC from May of last year, where they at first talked about this cloud test launcher, and there's some good information in there. So if you want to check that out, I highly encourage it.
All right, moving on to the next paragraph. And I said I'd be done by 1 o'clock in the morning. That's not happening. The team responsible for PES has now moved on to static server meshing. This is important because we still have so many problems with PES, and are embracing a transformation approach to the new project. Unlike PES, this fundamental technology can be integrated into the codebase gradually. So they're not building server meshing to be plunk, suck it. It's going to be, what can we break up? What features, what code bases can we split up to be able to put it in the engine, make sure it doesn't explode, and then put the next layer on. Kind of like building a skyscraper one floor at a time. Their whole skyscraper is server meshing. They want to put in just one layer at a time and make sure it doesn't explode. Can we integrate the code gradually, avoiding a disruptive Big Bang approach? What I just meant. Parts of server meshing tech are already available to the game team for testing compatibility with their game features. Combined with the Cloud Test Launcher, this approach aims to facilitate a smoother integration process of server meshing. See, if people thought that first line in the first paragraph meant 320 was going to be better. They did not read the second paragraph. They didn't say with the next patch, they specifically are applying what they said in the first paragraph to this process of server meshing. Basically, server meshing and 2024 are basically the same thing. It is going to be a year of trying to get server meshing to work.
Yep.
By implementing these measures, we aim to enhance our testing capabilities and mitigate integration challenges, ensuring smoother delivery of fundamental technologies while minimizing disruption to the game.
So this statement right here is pretty poignant. Parts of server meshing tech are already available to the game team for testing compatibility with their game features. This is why when you look at these sprints for server meshing and PES on the progress tracker, you can see teams that don't have anything to do with actually making server meshing and PES on there. It's because they are working on adapting the parts of the game that they're responsible for this tech. And so essentially what they're saying is, like back in May of last year, I think it was, is when they announced that PES was now in the main dev branch. And we're basically rapidly approaching that point for server meshing. Yeah. And so that means that go for it.
And that whole thing about it being in the dev branch, that was a direct reply to that weird vehicle thing we read in the What Went Wrong. Regarding vehicles, PS heavily modified the way they are entitled and created in the game. That was a problem because they didn't know that before. So the vehicle team had to drop everything and start integrating PS into all the ships because it broke everything. Yep. So we are making sure that this server meshing is available to all the teams so they can start working with the server meshing workflow to make sure that they're not blindsided when we need to start integrating into the actual game for PTU and live builds. All right.
Well, that's the heavy stuff. Now on to rivers. Which I'm actually very excited about the water simulation that they've been talking about in the month.
I can't wait.
It's gonna look good. And they're gonna bring, I know that they're gonna bring River Guy, the River Dev, back on to talk about it, and that's what I'm looking forward to. I want to see him talk about like the new water sim and how they're going to apply it to the toxic, great ponds of Hurston. Rivers.
I thought it was really cool that they even already have thought of bullet impacts. Like, that's a weirdly minute detail. Like, you can shoot the water and it will actually look like you're shooting
ships crashing into the water.
I mean, that was kind of obvious, but Star Trek Into Darkness. Anyone?
Well, and that's one of the things that's been I've seen it in multiple videos comparing the level of detail in Starfield versus Cyberpunk.
Really?
The water simulation in Starfield is very meh compared to Cyberpunk.
Oh, every detail in Starfield is meh. It's a Bethesda game. They do lore. They do not do living worlds.
Cool. So rivers. What went well? The inclusion of rivers marked we're going to burn through the rest of these.
I'm going to get more water, so take a little bit of time.
Okay. The inclusion of rivers marked a significant milestone in our quest to create more realistic and immersive planets. We were quite happy with the improvements to river canyons, which look great, which is very important because there's a lot of important points of interest, even landing zones that are in canyons in the Star Citizen universe, including my favorite. We were able to achieve between Alpha 318 and 319 due to improvements in our asset pipeline, and the support from the Planet Tech team to address technical issues during this process was remarkable. What didn't go well, the procedural river placement tool was not in as good of a state as we had hoped when we started using it. As a consequence, a considerable amount of manual effort was required to meticulously place and verify the resulting rivers to ensure their optimal quality. Moreover, this limitation also led to a decrease in the number of rivers we were able to generate. What will do better? Future plans. The numerous issues that were successfully identified and addressed during this initial run of rivers have already made a significant impact toward ensuring a smoother experience for next time. Although there is still considerable work ahead before we can consistently create planetary landscapes with rivers that look and feel like the real deal, we have made substantial progress and are now much closer to achieving our goal than ever before. I don't know. Blizzrat, are you talking about in 320? Sand caves. I'll read this one because Naz is getting water. Hydration is key. Everybody hydrate. What went well? We were very happy with the results of this initial push to develop an improved pipeline to produce individual rooms for all cave archetypes and to also define the visual identity of our sand caves. That we are able to release a first set of smaller cave systems. Smaller. They're smaller. They're going to be huge. Out of that prototyping phase, thanks to the concerted effort from multiple departments, was the icing on the cake for us. What didn't go well, with neither the tools for procedurally assembling locations nor automatically placing them on planets ready for use, we had to build and place every cave manually, which was the primary constraint on the number of caves we could place on planets in the Stanton system. Unfortunately, these caves had to initially be released without missions, making them into locations the player actively needed to seek out to experience. Yeah, the times I've gotten lost in caves. You and me both, Aodin. I can't wait until we have that new interior map and the whole FPS radar and ping.
How do we get here?
Yeah, I just kept going. What will do better? Future plans. We are currently in the final stages of refining the new visuals for rock caves, which will serve as the next archetype. We are looking forward to utilizing the location tool, procedural location tool, to construct a wider variety of cave systems. So it sounds like the procedural location tool required. Oh, I was just saying, we were talking to Aodin said the times I've gotten lost in caves, and I was like, the new map that they're developing as part of Squadron is what will keep you from getting lost.
Samples the environment.
Bingo. So yeah, the procedural locations tool needed more work to be able to procedurally place and generate and place cave systems. But it sounds like they are getting ready to use that for the rock cave archetype as they continue to update that. Additionally, we'll be working towards support for bigger connections, rooms, and entrances, which is a key requirement before we can replace the old caves. So they will be replacing the old caves. The old caves are the rock caves. So that when they update this, they are going to be eventually removing the old caves and adding in the new cave system as generated with the location tool, which should help a lot with the getting stuck aspects of the game, and also improve their ability to place them at scale.
Yep. Also, they need server meshing and PES. And
yeah, this image, I absolutely love this image of the Lynx. It's like looking at the Phoenix. It's like, you know, the Phoenix is like, don't worry, I'll be back. I'm just gonna go get milk or cigarettes. And it's like, but okay, Dad.
I really want them to deliver on this, and they've been posting this image since 2012. And if you know what I mean, or if you don't know what I mean, it's I landed my ship and took my vehicle out for some specific reason. Like we still, and if stupid settlements in Pyro don't give us this reason, I'm going to be so upset. That reason to land our ships and take the vehicle in. Like, we almost got that with bunkers, but now, like, if all you do is legal bunkers, then you can park at the front door again. Like, it's very rare that I come across a mission or reason to use a vehicle, unless the reason is I want to. Like, it's weird that they have this. It's weird that they have this recurring idea in all their marketing of driving vehicles, and yet they have no reason in the game. They haven't really talked about a reason. except for like maybe EM storms, maybe turrets, and that's as far as it goes. Anyway, PTV racetracks. Probably one of the weirdest main features that is not a main feature, but a background feature that became more of a main feature. And then it was an ISC feature. What went well? It was created very quickly. We went into it. I think it's fine. We went into it like they had, like they were planning on going into it. We went into it with the idea it was a simple location with a short time frame and minimal impact on other teams. However, we achieved a lot more in 3 weeks than we were initially expecting. With a good modular kit for kart-style racetracks and the addition of good dressing, theming, and lighting, it was really good to see how the community, especially the racing community, was excited when the racetrack was initially shown to the public. We have since seen organized races on the track. We also got code support for upgrades to the spawning vehicle entities. So if people were to crash, break, or abandon the PT or Great Cat PTV, it would respawn back at the starting area of the track. We can also set the value of things like time to respawn, which didn't go so well. Despite finishing the track before 3.17 was released, it had yet to have QA pass and be bug fixed. So we decided to hold it back until Alpha 3.18. Little did we know Alpha 3.18 delayed so much. So the track, even though complete, made it into the public's hand a long time after we had hope. Could talk about Theaters of War, maybe. What did we do better? Future plan. Okay. Good news on the Tau front. One, they're using the gifts in the Arena Commander tile, which it's not a lot, but we can it's something. And also they've said like one of the upcoming sprints is to start getting Theaters of War actually integrated into the game. It's to start like actually pulling it in. Now that it's developed, now they need to get all the tech parodied with it so that they can actually deliver it. We certainly developed more modular tracks, and we will certainly develop more modular tracks in the future, and we will certainly develop more modular tracks in the future and have other in the works. Have another in the works. There we go. I can read. But it is on the back burner for the moment. We will try and support other smaller size group vehicles like the Grey Cat STV in the future as well. Initial tests have been positive. We will also work with the mission team to look into adding a racetrack style mission to racetracks. A racetrack style mission to the track, like a race mission? Okay. Which will allow the tracking of race times, checkpoints, and laps, and enable the mission to give rewards to players. That's already in the game. I don't know if that was like an early part of the Post Mortem that was written, but that's literally already in the game. Just not on the PTV track. I don't think the PTV has the racing markups yet. I haven't been there in a while. But yeah, they just need to apply it to the PTV track. I do want an STV track. Yes.
Ooh, yeah.
I love driving the Steve. And we need a Spartan track. Nobody drives a Spartan. What a Spartan track.
They will once there's the Spartan track. What if What if we get a Spartan variant that's literally like an urban bus? It's not an armored vehicle. It's just built on the chassis, but it's just a municipal bus.
So what happens if Drake got their hands on Atlas?
Yeah. Is it back up to me for SPK?
Security Post Korea.
Okay. Security Post Korea. What went well? We could never have imagined the level of support we received from the art team, which really rejuvenated the location. When are we going to get more security posts? That's what I want to know. There shouldn't just be Korea in all of Stanton. Like I get that we need
they've mentioned
server
it a few
meshing for more
times.
locations, but I really want to see a security post at every, at least one at every major planetary system.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they definitely said we need one for each planet, so that's 4 plus the jump points. There should be at least a security office at all the jump points.
Yeah,
and
not
they've said
just the
Korea
Leo
is the test bed.
station thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
They said that Korea is the test bed. Not
I
just
hope
for
that
stuff
they
they're
will
about to talk about,
build
but
a more bespoke location that's up to date, because Korea is outdated. It's not as bad as
it was built to be an
but it
FPS arena,
is.
and it shows.
Yeah. Yep.
It has the Starfareitis.
It needs a purpose built location. That
for sure.
then just be copy pasted, and updated to look Hurston or Microtech Security, what have you. Anyway,
I mean, ArcCorp doesn't even have theirs, so would ArcCorp even have a security post?
Yeah, I mean, well, they contract out. It would just be a security post that's
Blackjack doesn't have a security post. There's no they.
Yeah,
Blackjack security post is Grimhacks.
It would just be the Blackjack is manning it, but it's owned by ArcCorp. Like ArcCorp owns the infrastructure, but they contract out the labor to Blackjack. Anyway, the player-triggered sandbox activity was well received, and analytics showed that hacking crime stats at Korea is still very popular, which is a concern for us as we are taking a risk removing the other hacking locations. Bring them back, but in the form of security posts, please. Thank you. What didn't go well? The mission still has rough edges that need ironing out, which is in progress. Also, additional analytics needs on sandbox activities were identified to be able to further understand player participation. What will do better? Future plans. We'll continue to iterate on the sandbox activity and location based on the feedback we've received and add further analytics to better understand participation. Whoa, Victura! Oh my goodness. Coming in, dropping the... gifting the subs, you mad lad. Victoria, thank you so much. Gifted a tier 1 sub to Radarid, KSP, KP Invincible, Danger Hobo, Neurodyne, and Aetherdrift 369. Let's go. Victoria, thank you. You gentleman and scholar, or gentle person and scholar. Thank you so much for gifting those subs, and just a reminder to everybody that any and all monetization with any both YouTube and Twitch content goes directly in its entirety to stackup.org. So that gift, those subs will go to stackup.org. Victoria supporting a great cause. Call me that in person, Sarge. Yeah. In a few weeks I will.
I want to see your channel make another supply drop for the end of the year.
I'm still, so they told me that we were sponsoring a loot crate, and I just haven't been updated on who the lucky recipient is of the loot crate. So
yep. I just want to see you get another one for the end of the year. Like you were playing 1 year we're gonna get one thing. This is gonna be the whole goal, and we get two.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I think we're going to continue to make really good progress.
Yeah.
Victoria,
sure.
As a reminder, I am going to UPS in the post office tomorrow. I've got a bunch of things to ship out to multiple different people, including Blizzrad and Victoria getting a patch. I got oh my gosh, more subs. Jeez. It's a finger slip. Victoria, you mad lad. 5 more gifted subs to got North End Trooper, Naz, Robert Vose, Biker Scout, Champasta. You generous fool, you. Thank you so much.
Oh, I can do crayons now.
That's a non-professional discharge. This is also a really great shot of SBK. I'm a fan. But thanks again, Victoria, for all the support. It means the world to me. And
if I had money, I would have. I don't have money.
It's about time that Nova Forge guy subbed. Naz
I
Naz pays
provide
me in
content.
labor.
That's how I pay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I handed him a podcast. Like, come on.
Yep. Back to you for Jumptown.
That's the one in the song, right?
What?
What went well? The change to locations were very well received. Player participation was consistently very high, and the support we received from art was well beyond that what we expected. Okay, the art teams deserve a good shout. Good job, guys, on like impressing all other teams.
Yeah.
It's like,
No joke.
wow, we didn't expect them to do that good of work. It's like, what did you expect? They're artists. They do good work. Have you seen anything else in the game? They do good crap. What didn't go well? The implementation of PES led to performance issues around the location after a lot of ships were destroyed. We also wanted to redrop the locations with Rastar. However, redrop the locations with Rastar. However, we were unable to at the time due to it breaking the shops. What? Can anyone read that in a different way so I can understand that? Redrop what locations? What shops? There's now a shop at Korea. That's Jumptown.
So, no, this is Jumptown.
They went to Rastar the outpost. I thought we were still in Korea.
Yeah, they want to do to Korea. So this is
Jumptown. They want to do to Jumptown what they just did to the underground bunkers.
Yep, exactly. But this is really important because Jumptown is basically the old outpost system with overlays hand placed instead of being procedurally placed with the tool, not procedural, but be placed with the Rastar tool. It's handcrafted. And so they wanted to be able to take it and then redo it using Rastar. The interesting thing, though, is this is a question I've had for a long time, and this came out after we did our Rastar update, obviously. But my question has always been, were they going to take the current outposts that we have in Stanton, which they've had to replace each time they adjust the planets because of the whole height map thing, and were they going to put those assets into Rastar to be able to replace those so that way they didn't have to go back and adjust them each time they adjust the planets? Because that's what Rastar does, is it makes the locations planet content team proof every time they adjust the height maps and such. Because if they do that, then it would allow them to add the those assets to the Rastar tool to not only be able to re-put down those locations, but to add more and to add more variety to them, like with Jumptown, to add the overlays to them and everything. And so it wouldn't just be the colonialism. This would be, you'd have the colonialism outposts, but then also this style guide, whatever you want to call the ones that we have right now. So that's my question. Is that the goal? You know, and they've never said other.
I imagine it is a lot because we're supposed to be like, they sold the Pioneer with the current with the what was current, the old outpost system. They have since said that's probably not what's going to happen anymore, but they said it's going to be using Rastar. The Pioneer's going to be using Rastar. I imagine we're still going to be able to build that style of outpost again with the Pioneer. The Pioneers might have more things that it can. So we also need the old system in Rastar.
Yeah,
would be nice. I
like that style guide. I like that look. That look to me looks very futuristic. Clean. Looks very sci-fi. Like it looks like, hey, this is, you're building a lunar outpost because there's no atmosphere here and it's modular, and eventually you're going to pick it up and move it somewhere else, versus the whole you're building a building and laying down a foundation with the colonialism ones where this isn't going
it's
anywhere,
like a short stay and long stay area.
Yeah, exactly.
The old metal ones look very short stay, and the new colonial ones look very long stay.
Yeah, you're coming here for the duration of the science project that you're working on this this planet or whatever, or for however long it takes you to collect these resources in this area, and that's it. And then you're moving on.
I think I wonder if they have plans or have even thought of getting a template or like a foundation in Rastar for basically a I don't even know how to articulate this. Basically a pedestal that you can put a procedure location on it, like Whistler's Crypt, and that would give it an area that it would not let the terrain break it, because Whistler's Crypt, at least in 3.19, was completely overrun with planet changes. And I'm wondering if they had ever thought of maybe merging the two, giving a way to put a procedural location into Rastar to get the planet fixing things that Rastar has.
I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah. What will do better? Future plans. For the next run of global events, we are planning to redrop the location on different planets to give different gameplay. For example, in thick atmosphere, higher gravity planets, and forests. Okay. Where's Jumptown being run this run around?
I don't know. I don't jump down.
I don't jump down. I've wanted to, but the servers, man. Where's the Jumptown? Pocket guide. Where was the Jumptown? We'll see.
While you're looking it up, I will continue with the time trials. Time trials. What went well? The new racing content and time trial modes were well received by the racing community, helped by the content teams who produced many more tracks than we could have hoped for. In the back end, the analytics we added were fantastic and allowed us to make very in-depth analyses of each track, which helped determine where they should go on the difficulty ranking and what the target times should be. What didn't go well? Poor server performance meant that a sophisticated new system of checkpoint tracking had to be created, though the markers still do not update as responsively as we would like. Analytics also show that relatively few players actually unlock the second track. And back to you for infiltrate missions. Orison.
Just talking about racing makes me want to go race more. For those who don't know, I'm going to plug Smithy stuff for him. Every Thursday evening, Smithy and his crew go out racing. And I will definitely be there this next Thursday.
Nice.
I want to do more racing.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm missing is people to race with. And that's exactly what Smithy does on Thursday. He's like, what, Omega Air Sports, Track Night, yes. What do you know what track you're racing on Thursday?
Smithy Jovob, feel free to drop an invite or whatever, announce it in my Discord, and feel free to spam it and let people know, hey, we're going to go racing, come join us, do all that sort of stuff. If you want to get more people, by all means, I'm happy to share. If you're not, you please use and abuse my community, especially Blizzrad.
Which is also in New York.
Yep. Racing is niche, but it's a good niche. It's a niching we should support. Blizzrad. Wow.
Blizzrad, when you got to do some co-op Hull C loading or running.
I cannot wait for vehicle tractor beams so I can man all my friends' Hull Cs and load and unload their cargo. Whether it's ill-gotten or not, I don't care. I just want to zip, All right, infiltrate missions. Orison, Naz, go.
Infiltrate mission? Oh, you just attached it. Okay. What went well? The new FPS environments were well received and a refreshing change after only having under facilities for years. The ability to assault the location on foot or in a ship was great too. I'm gonna do that every time CIG says too. What didn't go well? We had to turn the mission off for... Something just went bang outside my door. Off for 3-on-Team because we were aiming to release Seeds of Orison, but we were not able to achieve this or the new platforms clusters. We were not able to achieve this or the new platform clusters where we were to relocate them in time. New seeds, the platforms are still scheduled for 320X. So We will get Siege of Orison sometime soon. What will do better / future plans? We'll have relocated the missions to the new platform clusters, and we'll be releasing them when... That's barely a thing. When were we supposed to get the barge mission as well? Was that a thing?
Oh, I know they talked about. It wasn't ever on the release view, but they did talk about it during that ISC. Yeah.
I want the barge mission.
I want the retrieve consignment missions, because retrieve consignment missions are what I've been waiting for my cutter. And my cutter, Loot Goblin Retrieval Specialist, is the patch that I'm having made for when I do solo play versus group play during the artifact, the relic expeditions.
Go check that outside.
That's why I'm really excited for those missions. All right, prison activities. What went well? The prison escape mission is surprisingly well played and offers a new way for players to clear their crime stats. Inside the prison, loot on the AI and new selling terminals were well received. Players felt the new AI... Cats. Players felt the new AI made the prison feel more alive, and it gave them another way to earn merits. What didn't go well? The Ursa rover continues to spawn underground. That would be a cool vehicle, like if they ever make the ability to deform terrain, like a tunneling vehicle, like a drill vehicle. Just thought about that. Selling items at the prison kiosk still isn't reliable, and excessive AI are being spawned due to a spawn closet issue. Yeah, not creepy when those screenshots come in. What will do better? Future plans. For the next release, we'll fix any bugs we can, including the Ursa spawning issue. See? How cool is that image? And they want to be able to do this, but with Rastar. Just like they are able to do this with Rastar for the colonialism outposts. That's amazing. Because I want to see more locations like this and not just tied to events.
Okay, I just learned something about YouTube that's really dumb. So you know how there's the show transcript button, the little dots?
Look at this poor little guy.
Oh, what happened? Which one?
On screen, this guy is on fire.
Is a dude on fire?
There's a dude on fire. We are full rated R now.
Dude on fire. Oh, the one exploding on top?
Yep.
Yeah, that one's getting shot in the
Ether
face.
Drift 369. Yes, as far as we know, Rastar is just on the surface. They have said multiple times in describing Rastar on the surface of planets, but they have in the monthly reports when they've talked about the development of the procedural locations tool that they're going to use it to make caves. And they actually talked about it in the sand cave bit up here further up. Sand caves. With neither the tools for procedurally assembling locations, not automatically placing them on planets ready for use, we had to build and place every cave manually, which was the primary constraint on the number of caves we place. We are currently in the final stages of refining the new visuals for the rock caves, which will serve as the next archetype. We are looking forward to utilizing the location tool, procedural locations tool, to construct a wider variety of cave systems. So, alrighty. And back to you for the Drake Vulture.
The Vulture. Right after I find the tab I'm looking for. The Drake Vulture! What went well? Adding the long-awaited starter of salvage career alongside its gameplay loop was a great milestone for the vehicle team. They finally got one. They finally did it, guys. They finally released a ship with its intended gameplay.
Hey!
Cry in all previous career ships. While the vehicle was started some time ago, we had held onto it to ensure it released strongly with the gameplay loop rather than without. Yeah, the Vulture without salvage would have been dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, probably the worst offense of that.
Like, even the Herald is a better ship than the Vulture without salvage. Like, yeah. And this allowed the team to squeeze in more features onto the ship to make sure it hit all current standards. So it is, for all intents and purposes, gold standard ship when it got into the game. What didn't go well? A few complaints surrounding the traversal of the ship due to the gameplay mechanics were somewhat a product of the salvage mechanic evolving over time. Required more manual input than initially expected during the vehicle's concept in 2019. AKA, we didn't know what we were doing, and then we had to change stuff in the middle of it because we didn't know. This is the problem when you start building stuff before the thing you're building it for exists. And Schulte Mike, again, same podcast with Tomato, did a whole bit about this. What will do better? What will do better? Future plans. Releasing vehicles alongside their gameplay loops earlier in the project. See the Starfarer, Reclaimer, Herald, MSR, Terrapin, Drake, Dragonfly, PTV. Like you're gone. Is something we've been striving to do in recent times, and we'll continue aiming to do this. Basically, it's nothing. You've said 0 things. Entire paragraph. Argo cargo, Argo personnel, even like all light fighters. Their gameplay is not in yet because light fighters are not supposed to be system traveling things. They're supposed to be on a thing like the Liberator or bigger. So I'll throw them into Scorpius and Terrace.
What went well? The Antares was designed alongside the base Scorpius as an optional variant to put into production in the future, with the tail section of the ship outlined as the part that could be geometry swapped. However, during development, it was clear the needs of the EMP and quantum drive required slightly more power than planned, and the team reacted well to adjust both the base and Antares to allow the component layout to suit both. Let's see what didn't go well. There were a few technical issues that we weren't able to solve that reduced the ability for the second player to have more control over pilot features and a more enhanced MFD setup. What will do better? Future plans. With master modes and new MFDs coming in the future, very soon TM, we should see the co-pilot get more gameplay features rather than being half passenger, half button presser. Good. This is good. Response to, hey, we know that this is not well received, but the things to make it better are coming soon.
Yep.
Back to you for salvage and cargo.
Vehicle gameplay. So we talked about the Vulture, now we're talking about the gameplay and the cargo gameplay that actually came with it, which people started doing way more than they were salvaging. What went well? We were able to support both feature teams, introducing 2 key features into the poo, with salvage requiring a lot of time to be spent on the art assets and cargo requiring a pass across all ships by design. So, big feature. What didn't go well? Unfortunately, the scope of the work for salvage was drastically underestimated. As we thought the existing UV2 damage system, all ships would be suitable out of the box. However, we very quickly realized we'd have to do an entire pass on every ship to up the quality, as you were looking at the visuals much closer than the damage system. In addition, the gameplay mechanic was built around the idea you'd be able to 100% scrape the entire hull. However, this wasn't a consideration in the UV2 damage setup. So some areas were inaccessible, causing frustration to early testers who couldn't 100% a ship. This is all in past tense, by the way. Like, all of their didn't go well is all in past tense. They had thought that UV2 wasn't good enough, but they fixed it. They had this problem where you couldn't 100% ship, but they fixed it. Like, that all happened in the beginning phases or the development phase and then in PTU phase. in the PTU phase of 318, I think it was 318, whichever patch we got salvage. When you got in, very few ships were properly marked up. And then as each PTU got done, more and more ships were more and more salvageable. And it was like seeing them get work done in real time. It was really cool to see. What we'll do better / future plans. We now more closely integrated with the teams working on big features like this, so issues can be found and investigated before development properly starts, rather than being looped in once prototype has been completed. I believe this has already spawned fruit. I forget the actual idiom.
Born fruit.
Born fruit?
Yes,
I
either
don't
bear
know.
fruit or born fruit.
Has barren fruit.
Born. Past tense.
Anyway, I forget what it was for, but there was some feature where they were able to realign it because of this learned thing. Anyway, on to more salvage hole scraping with 30311.
All right, hole scraping. What went well? The long-awaited first iteration of salvage gameplay finally arrived with Alpha 318, which enables players to scrape off hull material and either trade it or use it for field repairs. The core gameplay loop was generally well received and provided a great contrast to other activities. Pardon me. We also expanded the harvestable system with shipwrecks and salvageable metal pieces, and introduced the first miniature version of crafting by allowing players to create a few select items using RMC. Releasing hull scraping alongside the Drake Vulture meant that the ship could come out with a proper gameplay system, and the Aegis Reclaimer finally has appropriate gameplay available to it. What didn't go well? A lot of features and systems hull scraping was relying on were still in active development when we were building the core gameplay system. This meant that the feature was handed off to the EUPU team with a fairly compressed timeline for release. This is why we saw so much of it going on during PTU. We addressed the way players would find salvageable objects in the universe way too late in the process, and the balance work for salvageable object distribution was not properly mapped out. Not all vehicles could be upgraded to the new damage map, meaning some vehicles still won't work correctly with hull scraping. Let's see. What we'll do better future plans. We'll change our approach to how early we get other teams involved, meaning that downstream teams get involved as early as the prototyping stage. We've also introduced additional milestones where downstream and content teams can review and approve the progress we've made before we move on to the next stage. This is a pretty cool image.
Yeah. Got Lorville rework, mining improvements, Vulture, what's the wreck? Ghost Hollow, ArcCorp. Oh, ArcCorp because the new player experience, Invictus, another Vulture, saddlebags on the mole looks like. Hull scraping from the Vulture, and a nice shot of Lorville. The Lorville rework.
All right. And
Alpha
to kick off
319.
Alpha 319, go for it.
All right. Salvage contracts. One of the biggest things to happen to salvage since 318. What went well? We're very proud of what we achieved. Initially, we had only expected with hull scraping, but we were able to get cargo and brand new detachable components feature included. This mission was well received by backers too. What didn't go well? We didn't choose the best ships for the mission, as only some have detachable internal components and gold standard holes for scraping, which we only found out after the fact. RIP. And due to developer illness, the first release saw a very rough passive cargo spawning, meaning there was no time to properly balance or verify that all items could be sold. Yeah. That created quite an interesting first iteration of that one. The economy team... Ooh. Interesting. The economy team had to change the values of their ship weapons very late into development, This was necessary to balance the problematic insurance issue, which needs a further rebalance. The change meant some backers were disappointed. Having gotten used to higher rewards, so they kind of rug pulled people in that it was super lucrative, and then the next patch it wasn't.
Yep.
But it was overtuned, so they retuned it. It wasn't supposed to be up there in the first place. What will do better / future plans? For the next release, we'll choose more appropriate ships with detachable internal components. That's it.
Yeah,
that's not next patch. 320, next release.
Isn't in 320 there's a lot more ships with detachable components, or was that not yet in that?
They're always working on it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably.
I thought there was more coming in 320. They said something about that, or maybe that was later. I can't remember. New player experience. What went well? We received a lot of positive feedback from new players that the new player experience has helped them learn the game. The visual upgrades to Area 18 have greatly improved navigation alongside new control and contextual hints. Throughout the development of the new player experience, we've been able to make many improvements to our mission system, such as the introduction of mission persistence, which allows us to resume a mission at the last active objective if a player loses connection or experiences a client crash. Okay, sweet. Now do it to the rest, because this is what we need. What went well? The mission is largely modular, but not entirely so, which means more work is needed to bring it to other locations. We didn't have sufficient time or support to teach the player inventory management or interacting with shops. In terms of the production itself, New Player Experience was a cross-team initiative and as such was complicated to coordinate. Production support for New Player Experience changed a few times as it wasn't owned by a dedicated team. Additionally, we didn't have sufficient support to remedy the visual issues with the existing HUD elements clashing with the new control and contextual hints. What will do better? Future plans. We've started working on modularizing the remaining parts of the new player experience to reduce the maintenance and allow us to bring it to multiple locations. We will also introduce additional components to NPE, such as inventory management, shopping, and more. Yeah, so this is like the tier 0, tier 1 of the new player experience. Tier 2 will probably have at least one more, if not multiple more locations, as well as adding in these other functionalities to it.
I wouldn't be shocked if we got new baggage in it in the IE patch.
That would actually be a really good idea. Yeah,
it would be. I wouldn't be shocked if they actually got it in there.
Mm-hmm.
The RSI links. What went
well? Look at this. Like, they already
the flatbed.
It's a cart, which is already a weapon of mass destruction, and they put missiles on it. What could go wrong?
I would love for them to add cargo grids to carts. Now that we have cargo grids for everything, well, the attempted cargo grids for everything, I would love them to add cargo grids to carts so we can actually stick stuff to it. It's not because once you put stuff on a cargo grid, it no longer becomes a physics object, and so it doesn't try and bounce around. So I want cargo grids and carts. Cargo grids for everyone.
Makes sense.
The RSI links. What went well? The links started off as a very simplistic adjustment of the URSA, but as we progressed, we felt it deserved more. So it ended up with a virtually all new geometry and materials part and sits well with the Constellation Phoenix, the worst luxury ship in the game. We also managed to cram a huge amount of interactive content within the vehicle, including animated chairs, TVs, lockers, and fridges. I think the Lynx well outshines the Phoenix. I don't feel like a luxury ship when I'm walking in. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe definitely. The Phoenix needs. The whole Connie series.
The whole Constellation lineup needs a whole glow up. It's bad.
Yep.
The more ships come out, the more the Constellation looks bad, and it sucks because that's a lot of devs. That's the Constellation brought people into the game.
Yep. Connie and Freelancer are going to be a big. The Connie series and the Freelancer series are going to be a big undertaking to get those up to current standard.
What didn't go well? Increasing the scope of work for the vehicle, primarily redoing the entire cockpit area, resulted in the vehicle team working longer than expected, leaving less time for other teams such as VFX Audio to do their work. But still got done and everyone went home happy. What we'll do better / future plans. Next time we'll ensure scope adjustments are discussed with all teams and that they're not unnecessarily waiting for all aspects to be delivered to start their pass. This is, again, an adjustment to the entire pipeline that downstream gets in sooner. Like, that's basically a lot of the stuff every time we talk about downstream teams, like even the new play experience. My camera just died? Oh, I'm back.
Weird. Just a little stroke.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Downstream teams getting in sooner. And then Fury and Fury MX.
Mirai, Fury, and Fury MX. What went well? Despite its size, the Fury series is one of the most complex vehicles we've ever put in the game, requiring complex animations and state machines, all compressed in a very small space frame. It was also delivered ahead of schedule, as we were so excited by the vehicle we actually started production before the concept pass was officially complete. Vehicle features made a pass on the gimbal thrusters to make them work as we had envisioned. This means that the Kar2All and Santok Yai will benefit from this in the future. Cannot wait. Not only for Kar2All, Santok Yai to get these articulating thrusters or gimbal thrusters, whatever they want to call them, but this is eventually what's going to be used on everything with gimbal thrusters in any sort of way. So your Valkyrie, your Cutlass, the upcoming Legionnaire, the Terrapin is another one. All those are going to fly much differently in the future, as intended. Just a tech thing. Let's see. The MX's Blast Shield was our first proper foray into integrating custom building blocks UI into the vehicle pipeline rather than reusing other assets, such as door control panels. What didn't go well? Some of the tech we needed for the thruster rotations took a few attempts to iron out, and we accidentally caused other issues with thrusters on other ships, but all was solved before release. The MX was originally intended to have generic missile racks, but it was clear early on they needed to be bespoke to prevent them from launching into the body or wings when changed for alternatives. This sadly reduces player customization, but ultimately makes it more reliable in use. Okay, that's fine. Not exploding is a good thing. What will do better? Future plans. We're pretty happy with how the Fury and Fury MX turned out, and no specific things occurred with their development that need adjustment in the future. Hooray, good news. Tractor beam attach and detach. Almost done.
Almost done. What went well? Finally, players were able to loot vehicles for components and weapons, greatly expanding the salvage gameplay loop. This feature also provided additional gameplay opportunities for other features, such as allowing players to swap out mining heads and modules, and provides a strong foundation for vehicle tractor beams, or for the vehicle tractor beam feature. Initially, the vehicle content team were very responsive to addressing content issues with existing components and weapons. There we go. So basically, they got all the component things pretty good. What didn't go well? This feature wasn't originally scheduled for 319. A compressed timeline to work with the QATR for this feature will also reveal a lot of issues with content that couldn't all be resolved in time for its release. Basically, they really should have pushed it back till 20, but they really didn't want to, so they didn't intend. So, what will do better? Future plans. We started requesting downstream support much earlier. Again, third time, downstream teams in earlier in the process so that necessary content changes can be done in anticipation of the feature getting ready, as opposed to doing the handover towards the tail end of development. Again, third time, get downstream teams in earlier so they know what the pipeline looks like before it's ready for them. So mining rebalances, last one.
Mining rebalance. What went well? The community reception has been fantastic. I don't mine. I probably will get more into it again in the future. But just seeing the videos and seeing like the reactions from like Croncy and Salty Mike and a bunch of other content creators, it's like this. They did a really good job with this. I'm very pleased. Smithy Joe Bob, they were totally joking. He didn't actually die. The person didn't die. He was just joking. You know, it's you got to go watch it again. um, let's see. Long-standing metas and balance issues have been resolved, and mining is now a much more nuanced gameplay loop that allows for multiple strategies. Changes to tractor beams greatly benefited the mining gameplay loop by enabling the ability to swap out mining heads, modules, and pods. We also identified a better process to balance gameplay loops holistically. What didn't go well? There were some issues that we couldn't properly resolve until after the release, such as mineable rocks always exploding. That's not good. And the redistribution and rebalance of shop prices required a bit of back and forth between various teams before we got it properly implemented. A lot of issues and edge cases with pricing and distribution were revealed during testing that needed constant fixing and readjustment. What will do better? Future plans. We want to continue to improve our communication around mining with the community and keep listening to critical feedback to make mining the best it can be. We also put more trust in the data we gather to help inform future design decisions around mining gameplay.
They've been doing a good job of it too.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And all I can say is, do another. Do it again.
I mean, we have the large miner, right? Is that what's supposed to be? The RSI large miner? It's supposed to be above the mole. And then we have, again, the RSI freaking Orion. So they have plenty to expand mining.
So here's my thought. They are working on the Polaris right now. And then they said after that will come the Galaxy and the Perseus. I think in parallel to one or the other of those is when they'll be working on the RSI miner. I think it's going to take a while to get the Orion, but I think that that'll be like an unannounced, that they'll work on in tandem because we already have lots of mining gameplay, and they'll want to introduce a large mining ship before they move on to the Big Daddy. I know you love the Orion. I'm just saying. I think that's probably what's going to happen. I think that's.
I think they'll creep up to it. I don't think it's coming in before we get there. Like I think we're going because they had it was. Did we have hand mining first? Or did we have prospector first?
Prospector, I think.
Okay, so we prospector, then we went hand mining. Then we went vehicle mole, then vehicle mining.
Yeah, I think the mole came before the rock.
Interesting.
Pretty sure.
So it's not a great example, but they are slowly getting bigger. And now we get the large one, and I don't think that I think they would put the large one in before the capital one because the Orion, because we don't have anything that does capital anything. Even the Reclaimer doesn't really have capital reclaiming yet. That's coming with how they're doing salvage is not a parity with mining because it's feature based, not size based. And I think we'll also need the Aaron Halo before the. So, should we move on to the Return of the King?
Yeah. So, calling this last segment, the Return of the King, just because it's funny and ironic, and it made for a good GIF / video.
Don't you mean GIF?
I certainly do not. Here,
I don't like my videos with peanut butter.
If you haven't seen it, I was very proud of this.
Yeah, no, I love this thing. It's really good.
So, what happened is Tarada, who, if you're not familiar with, is a very prominent content creator, is the Wizard of Low Flying, and he's a French content creator, right? Not only is he the Wizard of Low Flying, but is also does amazing camera work for his low flying type videos and just all the videos he does. The way that he is able to get angles and such.
And if you guys do any low flying, Smithy Joe Bob loves it and has the utmost respect for anyone who does low flying. So if you guys got low flying clips, definitely send it to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Tarada made this post on Spectrum, in the feedback part, and it's quality of life proposals, and obviously he made a lot of them. I don't think we need to go through them, but I'm going to put the link to the original post will be in the show notes. I'm also going to drop it in chat, as well as the link to the very important follow-on comment.
Yeah, I think over half of the things that Trotta had mentioned have been mentioned by devs.
Yeah. There's a lot
in the past couple months.
Yep, there's a lot of things that have already been talked about, and we'll hear more of that in a second. But the Dell made this comment in the Astropub Discord that this is the perfect example of a constructive feedback post, like knocking it out of the park. This is constructive feedback.
Yep.
So yeah. But I encourage you to take a look at these and see what you think, and obviously lots of replies and everything. But the most important reply is from Chris fucking Roberts himself. And so this
when did he elongate his name? I swear it used to say Chris Roberts.
I don't know. Yeah. And the reason I know that this is the first time in over 4.5 years that Chris Roberts has made a post on Spectrum is because you can search, and I have his previous Spectrum posts on quantum travel, and quantum drives and all that bookmarked because it's a great resource on a number of different things.
It's a new account. If you click on his name and go to posts, his name.
Oh.
Go to posts. Then change it to all time.
Where's
it currently says last year. Change to all time. Nothing.
Oh, interesting. Okay, now I'm curious.
Absolutely nothing, but it's a new account.
Where's that?
Wonder if he lost his account.
Let's see. Let's.
You want to send me the link? I want the link. Give link.
Link to which?
The one you're looking at right now.
Quantum drives?
Yes.
Putting it in chat, and I'll put it in our Discord as well.
Oh, I got it from chat, so we're good.
Okay. So the quantum post.
No, it's the same.
March 30th, 2019.
View posts.
All time. Anyway, so as Naz and I were hinting at earlier in the podcast, both there was a few things in the roadmap that were relevant to this, but also things, especially when we were going through the post mortem for 318 and in particular PES. So I'll go ahead and get started reading this. Hi, Tarada. I just wanted to thank you for your question or suggestions for quality of life on Star Citizen. Also, your incredibly awesome flying and video capture skills. Whenever I want to show someone the huge range of things you can do in Star Citizen, your low flying or 100-player get-together videos on YouTube are part of the links I share. When I started the journey on Star Citizen over 10 years ago, I never imagined such dynamic and beautiful footage showing off both what the technology of Star Citizen can do and, more importantly, what players can do in the huge sandbox we are building. I thought I saw... Ramar, welcome to the chat. Thanks for joining us this evening. Are you asking who's Chris Roberts? Are you being sarcastic? Okay. Yep. Yeah, being cheeky. Okay, cool. Happy to answer. Always happy to answer questions, but sometimes people don't know who Chris Roberts is. Because he's old.
Old and not very much in public view anymore.
Yeah. Back
Unless
to your
you're
post.
in Asia.
Yeah. Seeing tight, concisive, constructive feedback like this is super helpful. I also want you to know that I pay attention to the community's feedback as well as feedback by various Star Citizen content creators. This year has been an especially difficult one in terms of stability and quality of life due to the rollout of PES in 3.18. The whole way we track and record the state of the universe changed dramatically, which also changed the way we handle the data in the backend in the cloud. Because of how we record state with PES, we needed to switch to a different kind of backend database, so we moved from an SQL relational database to a graph database. Unfortunately, the graph database we selected, despite being one of the best rated ones and intended for enterprise scale, has had major issues at load, causing the database to lock up and all the queries from the game servers to stall out. This happened on the 3.18 launch, where it took us a lot of effort to stabilize, including some engineering on our side to lessen the load on the database. We thought we had this issue solved, but the most recent version of the database software was a step backwards, and we've had additional lockups at load, which is what happened for periods on Wednesday just after we launched 3.20, and on Thursday, Friday, and briefly on Saturday. We rolled back to an older version and disabled some of the features last night that we suspect may be contributing to the instability. Ironically, we think the replication to mirror databases for full redundancy is a culprit to the database lockups. This looks to have stabilized things. The backend database getting into a bad state manifests in multiple ways to infinitely spinning inventory windows, missing items, and degraded server and degraded game performance. We went with an off-the-shelf enterprise-level database for stability and resilience, as there is already a lot of new tech in Star Citizen. So it's frustrating, as the software that should be rock solid is the biggest offender in making the Star Citizen experience even more unreliable. We have the top engineers from the database company working on this, and we are also assessing other databases to switch to if the unreliability of the current solution continues. So, the reactions to this paragraph in particular, in the Star Citizen in particular content creator community, have been very interesting for me, because today was not the first time I read the Post Mortem. This is the third time I've read the Post Mortem. And they basically spell out in the Post Mortem up at the very top that they were using a vended database and that they had worked with a third-party contractor to make, to build PES on top of a database system, an existing engine. They didn't make their own engine. So when people are like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, it's like, so you didn't read the Postmortem. And I've seen lots of people reacting that have made reactions to 320 in regards to statements from the Postmortem, but then are also reacting to this paragraph as if it is news. And it's like, oh, that tells me you didn't read the Postmortem yourself, or you didn't read it very well. You got a summary from someone else. You got the Cliff Notes version, and that's why your reactions to
that they used third party.
That's why your reactions to 320 are so negative, because you have expectations that you didn't manage because you have a bias from incomplete information from the Postmortem. And then you read this, and this is surprising when it shouldn't have been if you read this. So, very interesting. Naz, you want to finish reading the rest?
Yep. One way or another, we intend to have this solved, and the game coming back to 317x stability levels. We are also very focused on improving QoL, both annoying bugs that have been around for 8 and some things that we need to address to make the experience fun and welcoming. Your list is great in this aspect, as a lot of your suggestions are on our list too. We get some QL fixes we did get some QL fixes in 320, like the QT HUD not being lined up properly, but not nearly as much as the team or I would like. We will be working on knocking out bugs and implementing QOL pretty continuously from here on out. They're basically putting Star Citizen into a what's the term? Not poly or proxy, but a poly beta phase is kind of what this reads as, and they've been saying it for the past 6 months now. There's a lot of great tech and features that we are bringing into Star Citizen which is in beta, that will dramatically change the feel and polish of Star Citizen. For instance, a lot of your suggestions in the in-game comfort and readability have already been addressed by these changes, or by the changes made for Squadron 42. The plan has always been to bring the work into Star Citizen. To bring the work into Star Citizen. Squadron 42 was just a good way for us to focus and really polish and the feel and usability without the pressure of maintaining functionality, as we intended to iterate, or as we iterated on it for the future. I just invented a word. Iterate on it for the always live environment of the PU. We now hit an inflection point in Squadron 42, or Squadron 42's development, that allows us to start bringing this work into Star Citizen in the near future. I am very excited for CitizenCon. That's just foreshadowing, as we will be sharing a lot of these features and more, and we will be great. And it will be great to be in front of a live crowd and spending time in person. It's been 4 years since our last in-person CitizenCon. Great foreshadowing there. Quasi. I think was the one. Quasi beta phase, I think, is what we're gonna get. You've definitely heard of the Aaron Roberts email, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. If you want in depth on that, go look up Board Gamer.
Just Durgan just rated with 15. Thank you so much for the raid. I'm sorry you guys are just coming in towards the tail end of the stream. Thank you so much for the raid. They'll really appreciate it. We've got a few more minutes while we discuss this most recent Spectrum post from Chris Roberts. But really appreciate the support, and welcome to everybody who's coming in from Just Durgan's stream. Hope you guys had a good stream. Hope you guys have been having fun this evening. So this whole post is really broken down into this paragraph right here, which is talking about how a lot of the issues with PES. Yes, the PES in 318 didn't get enough testing in PTU to really harden it and be able to find a lot of the issues that we ended up finding when it went to live. But there's also been a lot of issues with the actual database engine from the vendor that they got it from that have been contributing to this. And so it's good that they are getting a lot of support from the database company. And hopefully that will address the issues, or get us on the path to addressing these bigger issues and getting PES to the state that it needs to be in, because obviously it needs to be in a good state for server meshing. This statement right here is the one I find very interesting. Right here and right here. So, and we are also assessing other databases to switch to if the unreliability of the current solution continues. This concerns me, because I wonder how much of an effort it would be to convert to a different database engine from the one that they have built PES on. But then he goes and says this: one way or another, we intend to have this solved in the very near term, and the game coming back to 317x stability level. So if it's either
Remember,
the
though, remember
database,
this is Chris Roberts, and his time
yeah,
scale is wildly off normal human time.
oh yeah,
Very
but
near
it's
term could mean we figure out what we're going to be doing within the next year.
see, and I think very near term probably means within the next few months. If that's what it's like. Otherwise, I don't know. It could just be blowing smoke too. We don't know, but it's one way or another. I think that he's comparing the timeline of either switching to a different database engine or getting the issue fixed is in similar timelines.
I think
Yeah,
it's a bit telling when they don't have their marketing or whatever on it. We have our top engineers from the database company we're working with on this, or from the company we're working on this. Either the engineers are going to come back with, we can fix this, we're going to build a new one, or they're going to say this will work for you.
yeah. Well, and the top engine, like CIG, has a contract with this company, and if this company cannot uphold or meet the needs of the terms of the contract, CIG will void the contract, and this company will be out of this paying customer, which is probably a very sizable contract, and so they have a lot of motivation to make their database engine work for CIG's needs, because otherwise CIG will take a very sizable business someplace else. And this contract probably is not just a one and done payment. This is we pay you into perpetuity for the use of your engine and support for the use of your engine. And the more demand and the more use for the engine, like when Star Citizen gets a whole lot bigger after server meshing, that contract could get a lot more lucrative for them, and they probably know that. And so they have a lot of incentive to get it fixed. My question is, if they can't fix it, the potential of not being able to fix it and having to go to a different provider could be something that is very upsetting to Star Citizen's development process. Do I think that's going to happen? No. I think we've come so far and they've made so many improvements and changes that I think that it's just a matter of when versus if. But there's always that possibility. There's a non-zero chance.
And like most companies that Star Citizen touches, that CIG touches, the problems that they're forcing these companies to solve will eventually benefit the company elsewhere.
Yeah.
If Turbulent has gone on to get other clients instead of being absorbed into it, they could have said, we did that. They won awards when this first time they worked with Star Citizen. They won awards for the Star Map. And so this company, who is ever providing the database, can figure out how to build this feature that Star Citizen needs, and then turn around and say, hey, other MMOs that want amazing databases, we now have one, and we know exactly how good it is. Yeah. Best in the business.
Yeah, this database was good before. We just beat the shit out of it, and now they've made it so much better.
And when Star Citizen gets mainstream, I'm going to say it now, they can say, we built the database that Star Citizen uses to have everything players do in full persistence. And in some reality, that full persistence exists on a single shard. That's a big boon to anyone selling a database.
Yep.
But I don't think it's anything to be worried about. It's development. They are developing with development. They are doing the development.
Yeah, if they hadn't made the progress that they had made from 318 through 319 and now into 320, then I would be more concerned. But considering how far we've come already, I think the trajectory is where we need it to be.
I think the tone of development changes this next year. Because, like I said, this quasi beta phase with all these QLs going in, bug fixing going in, them spending longer and even more, not more PTU phases. Like we have the first run of PTU, and we have another PTU, and we'll run them concurrently and all this other stuff. I think this next year is when, not when Stars, like at the end of next year, I don't think Star Citizen will be a release game. I don't think we're going to beta or out or release next year, but I think we're going to make great strides to it. And 2025 might be the year we actually get a beta / release of Star Citizen, because all the beta work, or at least all the single player beta work, is already being done for Squadron. So it's only the multiplayer beta work that still needs to be done. And that's kind of the stuff they already have twice dedicated themselves to in the stuff we've read today.
Yep.
And they're hardening their backend, their pipelines with all the downstreams coming in sooner.
Yeah, no, that makes too much sense.
Yeah.
And this second half that Naz read, this is basically reiterating a lot of the things that Naz and I have been pointing out to in the monthly reports with, hey, MFDs are wrapping up. The star map is wrapping up. The mini map and interior map system, the first person scanning, all these different major quality of life initiatives that make the game feel like a more finished game in order for them to release Squadron. These are the things. Oh, holy crap. New Soul is in chat.
Oh, hello.
Naz, have you seen the new Soul video? Okay, hold on. Quick tangent. Sorry, New Soul's in chat, and I have to share again. So, New Soul, so good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Major props on the new video. Oh my gosh. But there's the link to New Soul's newest video. Huge collab with a bunch of content creators in the community. If you have not checked it out, I highly recommend it. Share with your friends. Super cool. I cannot applaud you guys enough for how well that came out. What happened to Naz? Naz, are you there? Uh-oh. Did Nazeris die? Naz, are you there? It says he's still in the conversation. Did my internet die? Nope, chat's still coming. I'm still here. I can still see you guys. Weird. I don't know what happened to Naz. I'm all alone. It's just me and you guys. You guys are stuck with me now. But this is what Chris Roberts is alluding to right here is a lot of the... Oh, I just heard a noise. Did that mean... Oh. Yeah, he must got disconnected on Discord. Yeah, I wonder if his internet just took a dump. Anyway, what... basically, the gist of what CR is referring to in this last bit is all the major initiatives in Squadron 42 that we've been reading about in the monthly reports for basically like the last 2 years. This whole inflection point, and how they've talked about all these things being now in the main dev branch, etc. These are what we're going to start seeing be integrated into Star Citizen, because things like the star map, things like the MFDs, the HUD, the like the your your visor, your FPS radar and scanning, the ping system, the interaction system, all that sort of stuff. These things are not beholden, or not beholden, are not held back by server meshing. These are things that can be integrated into the dev branch, the main dev branch for Star Citizen, and start getting integrated, and that will make Star Citizen feel like a much more polished and finished game. Even though obviously there's a long ways to go, we won't be working on the old star map, the old Moby-Glass, the old HUDs and MFDs. We'll have the new ones that are being used in the finished product for Squadron 42 before it's released. And so that's why what Nazeris and I have been saying, especially over the last several months with the monthly reports, is that, next year, as all these things are added, the way we play, that we're still going to be playing the same game, but the way we play it is going to be so much better, so much smoother, so much more easier to use and more polished looking, and more performant. And that's something that we should all be really excited about. Oh, Jake in chat. What are you doing, Jake? How are you, friendo? Hope you're doing well. Man, we're getting just all sorts of people coming and hanging out in chat. We've got Jake, we've got New Soul, we got Rated, just all these people coming and hanging out. And especially now that we're towards the end of the podcast, and Nazeris, apparently Naz's internet just died. I'm not sure what happened, because he's not on Discord anymore, and camera went out, and we got nothing. Jake, you've been streaming? What have you been up to this evening? But yeah, we were just Jake, we were just finishing reading, going through the first Spectrum post in a very long time from good old Chris Roberts. But we also went through the lovely and very informative Post Mortem for 318 and 19. Just got to give CIG a big round of applause for getting this done. I know you were under a lot of pressure to get it done. Lots of I saw every one of your replies to people requesting it, and just want to say I appreciate the amount of effort that went into producing this. Very informative. Really appreciated reading it. And then, of course, we've spent the first hour of the podcast going through the September Roadmap Roundups. So we've basically just been paying homage to a lot of work that Jake is deeply involved in. So, I know that Jake is, am I saying it right? Is the new French community manager? Is it like Niku or Niku? I'm not sure how to say that, because I don't know much about French pronunciation. But I know that they joined the team a couple months ago, but this was their first major post. His name's Lenny. Okay. Yeah, so just super excited to see that you and the rest of the community team are getting some more reinforcements, getting some more hands on deck, because there was Lenny or Niku, and then wasn't there a German community manager that got added to the team as well? I can't remember. I'm trying to keep track. No, I thought there was a. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, what's Ulf? Is Ulf the German community manager, or what's the German community manager's name? I'm terrible with names. I always forget, especially because I get to interact with you guys through posts. So, Naz is saying internet went dead. Ulf is the team lead. He is German. Then there's Christian. Okay, yes, Christian. That's the one I was thinking of. Very good. Well, this is pretty much it for the podcast. We've covered everything that we wanted to cover this evening. So I just want to say, everybody who's live and hanging out in chat, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us and coming and hanging out. Got a lot of support this evening. A lot of people coming in and hanging out. Really appreciate the raid that we got. And thanks for joining us, Jake and New Soul. Been a pleasure to see you guys in chat. Before we go, obviously we want to pay it forward and send some love forward. Oh, also Victura, got to thank Victura for the subs and for supporting StackUp.org. Really appreciate it. Just lots of support today, and gotta tell you how much we love all the support. But let's figure out who are we going to raid this evening. I am up to always open to suggestions. and like to take raid suggestions from the chat. Obviously, StackUp.org is playing right now. But who should we raid, chat? Who should we raid? Is there anyone actually playing Star Citizen right now that we should raid? Or streaming Starfield or Baldur's Gate 3 or anything else? Oh, before we go, while you guys figure out who we're going to raid, I have to share something with you that I'm very excited about that's completely unrelated. We're going to watch the Helldivers pre-order trailer because I'm very excited for Helldivers 2, and I think you should too. Here, we'll put the pre-order trailer in chat because I want you guys to go all watch this, as well as the Bile Titan Liberation gameplay video. These just released recently, and I just saw them today. But we're going to watch this trailer because we now have a release date for Helldivers 2, and I'm super excited about it. I'm going to be streaming the hell out of this. Co-op game nights are going to be on like Donkey Kong. All right, we're going to raid Fair Assault, but first we're going to watch this trailer real quick. It's just over a minute.
See, the automaton threat. Attention, citizens. The tide of war is turning against us. As we battle against the bugs for democracy, the automaton threat grows more menacing by the day. We need valiant soldiers to infiltrate their planets, take on these deadly robotic hordes, and spread our message of peace and democracy. Use the galaxy's most advanced weaponry. Fight alongside a squad worth dying for. And bring democracy to the universe once and for all. Join the Helldivers. Join the fight for freedom. Enlist today.
Oh. Naz is back.
Only in voice.
Only in voice. Yeah. So Helldivers 2 looks super cool. The the freedom and democracy irony just absolutely kills me. If you haven't played the original Helldivers, it's super cheap. It's on Steam. It's top down, but it's still a ton of fun. Still has a lot of people playing it. Very active community. So I just something that I'm super excited for, and I hope you guys will join me in playing it when it releases. But it just looks amazing. Going to be a lot of fun.
I made everyone look at their Discord.
Yeah. So yeah, let's start the raid for Fair Assault, and send Fair Assault our love and support, and hope they have a good rest of their stream. All right, it says everybody's ready to raid, and raiding now. Send it.
Bye.
Bye.
You're out. Once you hit